We will now begin the City of Boynton Beach City Commissioners meeting Tuesday, May 16, 2017 at 6:30 p.m. Would everyone please rise for invocation by Commissioner McCrae, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us bow to the Creator Maker of all mankind. We come this afternoon in the humblest manner that we know how. We come with everything that's happening in this world. We come just to tell you thank you. As we look around and check our lives and check our standings, everything is as well within our household as it has been. We thank you for this great city, the city of Boynton Beach. We pray not only for the city, but for the state as well as the United States of America. We ask you to continue to bless us and keep us. In your name we pray for Christ's sake. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May I have a roll call, please?
Mayor Stephen Grant.
Here.
Vice Mayor Justin Katz.
Here.
Commissioner Mac McCrae.
Here.
Commissioner Christina Romulus.
Present.
Commissioner Joe Costello.
Here.
The quorum is present.
Any additions, deletions, or corrections to the agenda?
Could I bump 14D up to the 11B just for a moment of clarification on that?
14D to
11B.
Unfinished business, okay.
Yeah.
And that item is proposed medical cannabis dispensary ordinance. And I also would like to add another announcement. Ken Wilbanks is here to make a presentation on behalf of the Gold Coast Band. I'd like to add that as 3G. I have a motion to approve as amended.
So move.
Is that a second?
Second.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Moving on to informational items by members of the City Commissioner. Vice Mayor Katz.
I have no items to disclose at this time.
Commissioner McCrae.
Thank you, sir. I really don't have items to disclose, but I do have some information I do need to share. St. Paul AME Church, located on Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, they have a group over there called Meant to Make It program. But what they did, they called me because they wanted to do a cleanup on MLK Boulevard, and they requested that, who did they need to contact in order to get supplies, etc. I don't know who I told them to call, but anyway, they called the right person because they sent a thank you letter. And the thank you letter was just being thankful for them, meeting with them and making sure that they had those supplies to clean up MLK Boulevard. In the meantime, I too sent a letter back to Men to Make It, okay? And I thank them for taking the opportunity as well as the initiative to go out and want to do something here in our great city. I'd just like to say to Code, Mr. Livergood, all the guys of Public Works, as I ride through our city now, especially in District 2, I see an improvement. I don't know what you all have been telling them or what have I been telling them, but the trash pickup is getting better. The littering is stopping, and it's just amazing. I just want to tell you all thank you. Keep up the good work. You're making me look good as I make you look good. I'd like to say that I did a resolution. I spearheaded this resolution because it happened in my district, but it happened in the city of Boynton, which I included all the elected official names, which I would like to just give to the clerk just to have it stated in the records, along with the letter that I sent congratulatory. This resolution was for Mrs. Mother Geneva Green Russell. Mother Russell was one of the pioneers here in our city who lived to be over 100 years old. And I felt that it was befitting that we should recognize her from this city. I'm just saying, with her husband, Bishop Russell, and her 7 children for all the hard work that they did here in our city. So I'd just like to give it to the clerk to have it entered into the record. I signed everybody's name after I signed mine. Thank you.
You did sign our names?
I did, but I signed mine first.
All right. Well,
Thank you.
I would suggest not signing my name, and I'll be more than happy to sign.
It wasn't signed, sir.
Oh,
Your name
okay.
was mentioned.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Romulus.
Good afternoon, everyone. Just a few things to speak about, and I will use Vice Mayor Katz's time if he doesn't mind, because I do have a laundry list of things that I'd like to share. So first and foremost, I attended the press conference that our Boynton Beach Police Department did earlier this month to announce the rollout of our body cameras. This is a program that I'm very proud of, and I commend the police department for their continued efforts in transparency and communication with the public. This is a good move to continue to have good relationships with the public and also with our police to protect both entities involved. So this is a great move, and I'm really happy that we're moving in that direction. I also attended a TPS rally that was held here in West Palm Beach. This is an effort to raise awareness for the and this is an estimate, but I'm approximating about 15,000 residents that are living here in Palm Beach County that are recipients of temporary protected status, living here outside of Haiti, and this is something that is very worrisome and is a matter of fear for a lot of individuals, as in this deadline looms over their head in the 22nd of July, and if this current administration does not sign that into order, then this is potential 15,000 people that will be removed from their families and taken away from their homes, separated from their children, potential revenues lost. So this is an issue that's very important in the Haitian community. So we ask for the community to also rally around this effort. I attended the Boynton Beach Food, Wine, and Brew Festival. I also joined a dedicated group of volunteers that decided to take the initiative, just like Commissioner McCrae's constituents in District 2. We had some very serious and people who are serious about their community and wanted to make sure that it was clean. We went out to Boynton Beach Memorial Park, which is the cemetery here on Woolbright and Seacrest, and we spent Saturday morning cleaning and just beautifying that resting place for our loved ones and our veterans. So this is something that I was very proud of to take a part in, and I don't want any credit for it. I just simply want to give a shout out to those individuals who stepped out and said, we want to clean this cemetery, we want to make our loved ones have a better place to rest, and I was just grateful to be a part of that. So I also want to thank Jeff Livergood for setting that up with those volunteers and giving them the supplies they needed to make that happen. I also attended the National Coalition for 100 Black Women, their annual Hat and Brim luncheon. This was an endeavor taken on by the West Palm chapter and the South County chapter together to just help bring awareness and enlighten women, and to help them be more involved in every aspect of our world. So this was a great event to be a part of. And also, lastly, attended the grand opening of one of our local businesses here in Boynton Beach, Del Sol Bakery. So we're happy to see all these new businesses coming to the city. This is great move in the right direction, basically just telling us that people see potential in Boynton Beach. So we welcome you. Come open your businesses here in Boynton Beach. So with that, I will end my rant. Thank you, Mayor.
Commissioner Casello.
I don't think it was a rant. To reiterate what Commissioner Romulus said, I also attended the body camera rollout, and I think it's a great program. I'm glad that this commission has supported that, and I think Chief Katz appreciates that. I think it gives transparency and accountability on both sides of the law. I also attended the Boynton Beach Chamber of Commerce Food and Wine Fest over at Benvenido's. Well attended, some great food, some great wine and beer. And I just like to say this, and I know they don't look for this and it takes up time, but I had a call Saturday morning, and it was a irate constituent, not even necessarily in my district, but he had a problem and I couldn't solve it. So I made a call to a department. I'm not going to name names here, but the way it was resolved on a Saturday morning by our department heads, it's comforting to know that I can pick up a phone and I have someone with knowledge and the ability to get these issues resolved on a timely way. And it's very refreshing, and it makes our job as elected officials much easier. So you know who you all are out there, and I thank you.
I attended on May 5th the Gold Coast Band's event, and Ken Wilbanks will talk a little bit more about that. On the 7th, I did the BAPS Walkathon, where they donated $3,500 to the Literacy Coalition. and that is our local Hindu temple. On the 8th, I also attended the press conference for our body cameras, and I just want to let Chief Katz know that, you know, wherever I go, I hear great things that you're doing, the turnaround, what's going on with Boynton Beach. It's more or less before I got here, the city's police officers didn't know exactly how the correct direction, and thank you for giving them the correct direction to move forward. On the 9th, I visited with Chris Snow from Space Florida with David Scott, and have information for anyone who is in the aerospace industry. On the 10th, I attended FAU's Research Park with other elected officials and went to their tech runway. On the 11th, I opened up for Habitat for Humanity, their Women's Build weekend for Mother's Day, and that evening went to the Food, Wine, and Brew held by the Chamber of Commerce. It was a great time over at Benvenuto. On the 12th, I had lunch with the Sister Cities organization regarding my trip to Finland. On the 13th, also attended the National Coalition of Black Women with Commissioner Romulus, went to the Mini Maker Fair up at the Science Museum, attended the Del Sol Bakery grand opening, the 90s art event in our Boynton Beach Art District, and attended the American Muslim Alliance of Florida, who gave out $10,000 in scholarships. On the 15th, I made a presentation to Woodlands Middle School regarding their Mustang members, and today I went to the KLA school ribbon cutting. It's a great addition to the city of Boynton Beach. I saw what was there before with the Pete Rose Cafe, and it's a completely different live feel out of that area, so I'm very happy with that, and I spoke with Jeff Sluggett, and that is it for me.
Mr. Mayor, let me just do a point of clarification in regards to this resolution that I did for Mother Geneva Green Russell. Congressman L.C. Haston, who represents this district, the resolution itself, it will be forwarded to his office. He has requested a copy of this so that he can let it be known in Washington, D.C., you know, of Mrs. Russell's passing. I did not sign your name, but I do have something in my car as you carry on that I need to get out my car for you, sir.
Right now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much. Seeing no more informational items, moving on to announce the Commission has scheduled a public input budget workshop on Tuesday, May 30th, 2017 at 6:30 p.m. in the City Commission chambers. The purpose of this public input workshop is so that instead of having the budget, in addition to the budget workshops that we have in July, anybody who would want to see something that is in the budget workshops in July can make their comments known to the Commission so that we can direct staff and create consensus to what we would want to see in next year's budget. The city offices will be closed on Monday, May 29th in observance of Memorial Day. And next we have proclamation of May 20th to the 26th, 2017 as National Safe Boating Week and the start of the year-round effort to promote safe boating. I will present the proclamation to U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary Flotilla 54. City of Boynton Beach Proclamation. Whereas an average 650 people die each year in boating-related accidents in the U.S., approximately 3/4 of these are fatalities caused by drowning. And whereas the vast majority of these accidents are caused by human error or poor judgment and not by the boat, equipment, or environmental factors. And whereas a significant number of boaters who lose their lives by drowning each year would be alive today had they worn their life jackets. And whereas today's life jackets are more comfortable, more attractive, and more wearable than styles of years past. Now, therefore, I, Stephen B. Grant, by the authority vested in me by the City of Boynton Beach, do hereby support the goals of the North American Safe Boating Campaign, Wear It, and proclaim May 20th to the 26th, 2017 as National Safe Boating Week.
Mayor and distinguished members of the City Council, as the Mayor was saying, as of 2015, 3/4 of the boating fatalities are attributed to drowning. 85% of these were reported as not wearing their life jackets. National Safe Boating Week is an effort to raise awareness around boating safety and wearing life jackets. Now, Flotilla 5-4 has been occupying the building out at Harvey Oyer Boat Ramp for many years, since 1961. They were actually commissioned. In 1962, they were officially chartered. During that time, there's been 126,000 hours volunteered from that time till now. According to the records, just last year we recorded 11,701 hours of volunteer time. We held approximately 12 classes and graduated 120 students for our About Boating Safety program. We also inspected 306 vessels in the greater area here to make sure that they all have their proper equipment according to what the Coast Guard requires. We also did 283 program visits, which is where we go out to the local businesses and the marinas, wherever somebody could go in and get information about anything, whether it's a hair salon, whether it's a restaurant, whether it's a marine dealer, or folks who are up here at the road on Mastercraft and so on and so forth, to disseminate information about our classes, about our vessel examinations, and so on. This year we have 63 members. Notably, we have 2 members that have been in for 25 years serving this flotilla, and 1 member who's celebrating 35 years. And I have one coming up in a year or so that will have submitted 45 years of service to the community with the flotilla. Just as another note, some of the other things that we are doing this week was a Hurricane X drill. There was 2 drills going on with the District 7 Coast Guard. One was a radio drill. The second was the one that I was participating in today, where they simulated a hurricane coming through Tampa, up through Port St. Lucie, and so on. And our division, Division 5, which has a center of about West Palm Beach and Lake Worth, was organizing relief efforts through that. And this is a hurricane exercise that takes place almost every year. So there were a number of our people involved with that, and a number of people who are in Division 5. Division 5 covers 5 counties, 3 or 4 EOCs. So we're an integral part of this part of the Florida coastline. Thank you very much.
Sir, could we have your name, please?
My name is Chris Haar, C-H-R-I-S, H-A-A-R-E-R. I am the flotilla commander at the flotilla. Thank you.
Next, we have a proclamation for Haitian Flag Day. Is there someone here to accept the proclamation? City of Boynton Beach Proclamation. Whereas the growth and prosperity of the City of Boynton Beach is due in part to an ethnic diversity that includes a substantial and rapidly increasing Haitian population, and whereas we recognize the valuable contribution of the Haitian people in the fight for the independence of the United States of America, especially in the Battle of Savannah, and pay due tribute to their endowment, and whereas the Haitian population in South Florida joins together during the month of May to commemorate their Flag Day and celebrate their historical and cultural identity, not indemnity. And whereas Haitian President Dumaris Esmic started the Flag Day celebration with parades, cultural and athletic events in many cities in Haiti in the 1930s, when he was Minister of Education under President Stenio Vincent. Estim wanted to commemorate annually the creation of the Haitian flag to encourage the development of patriotic sentiments among Haitian youth. And whereas it is appropriate to promote awareness and understanding of cultural diversity in our society in order to strengthen the self-esteem of our multicultural community. Now therefore, I, Stephen B. Grant, Mayor of the City of Boynton Beach, Florida, do hereby proclaim the 18th day of May 2017 as Haitian Flag Day, and the month of May 2017 as Haitian Heritage Month.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Commissioners. Commissioner Christina, I want to thank you especially for choosing me among so many leaders in the community. Thank you again. And I want you to know that I'm accepting this proclamation on behalf of the Haitian community. Let me add that a few years ago, the Haitian community was at the City Hall, raising the Haitian flag. And we would like to have that again, beginning next year. And we raised the flag under the leadership of Major Joe Bernardel, founder of Toussaint Louverture High School. Today, I'm happy to see that Commissioner Christina is carrying the torch. Thank you, Commissioner, and thank you for celebrating the Haitian Heritage Month with the Haitian community. Thank you for the proclamation.
Next, we have a presentation of the annual Bob Borovy Student Citizen of the Year Award by the members of the Education and Youth Advisory Board.
Good day. My name is Tiffany North, and I'm the president of the board. I'd like to thank the mayor and the commission for allowing us to come here to present the Bob Borovy Student Citizen Award. And just want to talk a little about how the award was started. It was created in the year 2000 to essentially recognize a graduating high school senior who best epitomizes the spirit of volunteerism and giving to the community, exemplified by the late Bob Borovy. Mr. Borovy was an active citizen of the Boynton Beach community for many years, as well as a United States veteran, as well as a former advisory board member of the Children and Youth Board. The high school seniors essentially are able to participate in this award by writing an essay on what they have learned from performing volunteer community service hours, as well as providing 3 letters of recommendation from their peers. The winner must, of course, be of good moral character, have done significant volunteer work, and made significant contributions to his or her community. The award is funded through the donations secured by our board, the Education and Youth Advisory Board, and the winner is selected by a panel of judges, including the last year's winner. I'd like to talk about the second place award recipient, who will receive $300. Her name is Claudia Elise, and she will graduate with a 3.5 GPA from Park Vista High School. Her teachers describe her as goal-oriented, hardworking, and driven. In addition to being a member of the school's Medical Sciences Academy, Claudia has volunteered over 250 hours at Bethesda East Hospital. She has also worked with patients as well as visitors, both behind the front desk and as a guide at the hospital, and is also a member of the English Honor Society, the Multicultural Club, and her church youth choir. Claudia plans to attend Palm Beach State College in the fall and major in nursing. Her goal is to obtain her master's degree and become a neonatal nurse practitioner. We'd like to... Is Claudia here? No? Okay, so we will accept this award on her behalf. So that is Ms. Claudia Elise. So our Bob Borovy Student Citizen of the Year Award, they will receive $1,000 and have their name placed on the permanent plaque displayed in City Hall. This individual, her name is Nicole Brody, and she will graduate from Lake Worth Christian School with a 3.7 GPA and over 800 hours of community service. So she's definitely put in a lot of work. She has also been a part of a school's service club, Faith in Action, for at least 4 years. And through this group, she has volunteered for various local projects, such as the Canned Food Drive, as well as a food pantry and park cleanups, as well as collecting items and packing boxes for Operation Christmas Child. This organization makes a worldwide impact by sending shoebox gifts containing toys as well as hygiene items to disadvantaged children around the world. She has also volunteered as a counselor in training to disadvantaged children during summer camp and for the I Can Bike Camp, which helps children with special needs learn how to ride a bike. Nicole's teachers describe her as an organized, mature, trustworthy, hard worker, and faithful leader who volunteers for each task with enthusiasm. She will also attend the Florida Atlantic University, majoring in elementary education with a minor in special education. Is Nicole here? No? Okay. Oh, where? Oh. Congratulations.
You want to go in front of...
We have a few more awards to give out today. The Youth Volunteer Bank was created in 1997 to promote youth volunteerism. Our goal is to facilitate, promote, and reward youth that volunteer in our community. This ongoing program is a cooperative effort between the City of Boynton Beach, local businesses and individuals, volunteer organizations, and youth volunteers. This year, 9 volunteers in grades 5 through 10 recorded 596 hours serving their community. Service included beach and environmental cleanups, volunteering at churches, schools, and the YMCA, and various activities sponsored by the Boys and Girl Scouts. Since the beginning of the program, 816 youth have recorded over 61,100 volunteer hours, and $22,770 in prizes have been awarded. Unfortunately, several of the students had conflicts and were not able to be here, but I would like to recognize them by name. I assume they're out volunteering. When I call your name, please come up to receive your award. Natalie Claude, Dawson Fox. No Dawson. James Hazemi. Sam Hazemi. Christopher Epolite. Ryan Epolite. Jessica Miller. Andrew Thomas. Shane Woolley. And that concludes our awards. Congratulations.
Photo op.
And next we have Ken Wilbanks with the Gold Coast Band. Ben, you can use that podium if you'd like.
Welcome. There we go. Okay. I started here as band director last year, September of last year, with a vision. And that vision was to build this band up to national prominence. My first rehearsal here, I had 28 members sitting in front of me, wondering, what are we going to do? And I talked to them, and we got more involved, more people involved, and we've gone from 28 members to over 145 members today. We set out a goal last year. We met with Parks and Recreation, we met with the city, and our goal was to be the best band, one of the top bands in the nation. And last year, I told the band, I said, we've got to submit an audition tape in order to qualify for the national convention. We worked very hard last year. It is one of the highest, it actually is the highest prestigious honor a community band can get in the nation. We had to go through the audition process by submitting recordings of our concerts from last year. We were selected as one of the top 8 groups in America to perform at this year's convention. During the convention, I was approached by the president of ACB, which is the American Association of Concert Bands. She made a little comment. She says, wow, I didn't know Boynton Beach had a band like that. She turned around and says, and she was telling me that there's 3 songs that stood out. One is from the Greater Miami group, and the other 2 was the 2 that we played. One, we had a national famous pianist play, and of course, our other ones are saxophone soloists. So 2 out of 3 songs were the most memorable out of all the convention. And I'm very proud. These members behind me stand behind me, and I'm very proud of them. And I would like to just give the city the certificate that we received the award. And this is, keep in mind, this is the highest honor a community band can get in this nation. And without the support of you guys up there, the mayor and the city council, we wouldn't be here today. So I want to thank you guys very much. I've got the plaque, a picture of the band, and I have programs for everybody. And our president, Pat, will give you guys a program from the convention.
All right. So the program's turned out all right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yes. Do you want to come?
Oh, you got the plaque?
Yeah. Thank you, everybody, and thank you for coming to our concerts if you've been there. We appreciate everything you've done for the band over the years, and we look forward to keeping the same standards, the high-level standards moving forward.
Can I just like a couple of words? You know, since you left the Civic Center over there and moved over to the Boynton Beach High, I had the privilege to come listen to you a couple of times, and it's just outstanding. Great way to spend a Sunday afternoon. I would encourage anybody, and it amazed me how you fill that auditorium to almost full capacity, the music lovers that we have. And I also like to thank you for helping, you know, put Boynton Beach on the map with your music and your band. I've seen you people play up there. I'm just in awe of how you manipulate those instruments and the sounds and tones that come out of them. So thank all of you very much.
Thank you very much. And our last concert, we got to thank our mayor because he conducted Stars and Stripes Forever, and he closed the program this season with it. So he did a great job. So,
thank you. Right, sir.
Thank you,
sir. Excuse me. Before you leave, I want to say thank you as well. One of the concerns that I have is that when I was at your concert, I did not see people of color there, and I was trying to see, are you all reaching out? Are we missing something? Because I know we have people who play, and I'm just saying, I'd like to see a little mixture.
I'm sorry.
I said I did not see people of color in your band when I was there, and I'm just saying, are we missing them, or are we not reaching out? You know,
we're reaching out to everybody. Yes,
I know you are, sir. Thank you.
Yeah,
I
and we
enjoyed it
actually
as well.
that's one of our programs that we started this year was the outreach program.
Okay.
And we've actually started down to the middle school level, going up to the high school level and to college level, reaching out to everybody. Everybody's open. We have an open door. Oh yes. We do. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Oh, yes.
I must have missed him. All right.
Oh, sorry. You know why?
Yes.
They were in the back in the tuba section.
Yep.
That's where I sit.
All right.
If I would have played. So
Thank
yes,
you.
They are there.
And I was looking to make sure it's the YouTube is TXBD1. If you want to find any of the songs. So if you type in TXBD1 into YouTube, you can get all the recordings of the Gold Coast Band.
Just going through the inventory of all the musicians we have today. We also have a high school student who plays bass clarinet, who is a young African American.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Before we move on to public audience, Mayor, thank you. I did say I had to go to my automobile, rather my truck, to get something for you. Okay, but I was in Fort Lauderdale, and my mom passed on March the 20th of this year. And I was in the vestibule of the church, and it said, good news, and it says, mothers, you are priceless. So I picked up this just to see what the article said, but what really struck me, Mayor, this is why I went back to my car, that is on page 4, it says, out and about St. Joseph Episcopal School, Business Day welcomes Mayor Stephen Grant, sir. So here's your own picture. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Next, we are moving on to public audience. Individual speakers will be limited to 3-minute presentations. Oh, please state your name and address for the record.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Golene Lewis Gordon, and my address is 230 Lake Monterey Circle in Boynton Beach. And I am a member of the proud member of the Art Commission Board. And I am here today to invite you guys to an event. I am here to invite the mayor, the commission, and the public to the Conrad Pico celebration this Saturday, May 28th, from 8 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. This celebration is free to the public to honor the renowned stained glass artist Conrad Pico, his historical imprint on South Florida, his vision of art and culture, and his contribution to the global art community. The celebration starts with a tour at 8 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. You must register, and those who registered will have a chance to take the tour to the 4 points of the Conrad interest, including the Boynton Memorial Park, the Mausoleum, and the ancient Lutheran Church, and St. Joseph Episcopal Church, and the Gallery Fantasia. There are only a few seats. You must register. Following the tour at the City Library between 10:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m., there will be 3 presentations. You will learn some interesting facts about the former artist, visionary, and resident of Boynton Beach. Did you know Conrad Pico created the largest stained glass window in the world and in Florida? He created the concept for the Olympic of Arts and Culture in the U.S. You will learn about his concept for the city water tower. There is a newly published book on the Conrad Pico with 5 pages dedicated to the city of Boynton Beach. For more information, you can sign up or visit boyntonbeachart.org, and you can get all the information for the event. We also have a flyer a beautiful flyer here that you will get this flyer in the back. Everybody can take one, and so you can attend this beautiful event that is happening here. And this, to close, the Conrad Pico celebration is produced by the City of Boynton Beach Art and Public Places. If you haven't checked it out, you guys need to check it out. It's so beautiful. And the historical presentation division and the partnership with the Boynton Beach Historical Society and the Conrad Pico Studio. Thank you very much, and I hope you all will attend.
Good evening. Good evening. Is this on? Okay, good evening.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. I just want to say, Commissioner Katz, you have a great photobomb game. I saw it in action. Before I go further, I want to recognize one of my colleagues, Darren Romulus. He's here from County Commissioner Mac Bernard's office. Just want to welcome Mr. Romulus, please. I'm here representing the state representative.
Can you state your name and address for the record?
Sure, Mayor Grant. My name is Gervonta Edmonds. I live at 1151 19th Ave, Lake Worth, Florida. I am here representing the state representative, Al Jaquette. He would love to be here today, but he's actually at one of the high school's graduation. We would love to come before the commission and give a brief overview of session, some way, shape, or form. As you all know, the budget passed $82.4 billion, and encompassing that is a lot of different appropriations and a lot of different laws. So from our office, we really just want to welcome all the residents of Boynton Beach. Your state representative is Al Jaquette. So if you have any issues dealing with the state, you would definitely want to give our office a call. Anything from food stamps to insurance claims, we can definitely help you with. But again, we just came here to bring greetings, and hopefully we can work with you all to definitely have a presentation on what happened in the 2017 session, because it was a huge session. A lot of bills passed, such as the liquor wall, just various things that I'm sure that the residents will love to talk about. And again, I appreciate your time. It's good seeing you all again. And I got to add, this is really one of my favorite commissions. I love the way you guys gel. I love your personalities. I love Boynton. So thank you for your time.
Good evening. My name is Melissa Hagans. I live at 2240 Northwest 2nd Street, Boynton Beach, Florida. First of all, I would like to say, Commissioner McCray, thank you for getting that reflector light fixed so fast, the bent when I called you on. And my problem is that when I sit on my front porch, the Gateway Bridge, I live north of Gateway Bridge, and Florida Transportation said they are not purchasing anything there when they do the expansion. When I sit on my front porch, it's like a landfill. You got trash, debris, you got everything out there. I have the problem also with people walking their dogs, using that little alleyway as a dog park, and I have called the non-emergency number and everything, because when I sit out there, I smell the urine and everything, and I'm just sick of it. So I need to find a way. I'm hoping that we could put a wall up there to close out that little easement, that little area where they walk at, because they put a fence up there before and they just cut it down. They have no respect for, you know, the things you try to do. So Mayor Grant, I'm hoping, I hear you walk your dog, so I'm hoping you can come in my area. Matter of fact, I'm off tomorrow. I'm hoping you can come over there, but I hope you have a bag, because I have told them to pick up their dog p.m. after they.
So you don't have a connection north, was it?
2240.
Northwest 2nd Street does not connect to Gateway.
No, it's a dead
end.
end.
There's a little goat path.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
It is.
All right. We'll see. What I would suggest is see if the parks are, that we can put some trees or just create it so that there is no longer that goat path there.
Thank you. I would really appreciate that. Thank you very much. But also, what about, I'm hoping that, you know, it's like the fence that they have on top of the bridge, if they can take that all the way down to the ground so the debris won't actually, even though I know people probably throw their trash out the window or whatever, so it won't, so much of it won't get on this, you know, on the side of the bridge. If they don't, you know, I don't know how they're going to do it when they expand it. Are they going to make it like a wall, which I doubt that, like behind going on 95, you know, it's a wall up against the people homes. But over here it's like, you know, grass. So
no, yeah, I'm looking at Google Earth, and they tore down the fence. Like, so.
Yeah. So I'm like the second house. As a matter of fact, I just got through putting out a fire. Me and my neighbor had stopped and knocked on my seat. I know, I'm glad you gave me 3 minutes. My neighbor stopped and knocked on my door, and he said it was a fire. And my neighbor, she's the last house, and she's 85 years old. So we had to run out and try to put the fire out before the fire truck get there. But somebody apparently, either they threw a cigarette or, kids, they smoke. They do all kinds of things in that alleyway. So I'm really hoping that you can close that off, as soon as possible.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Melissa, I thank you for coming in, and what it is, we will get Mr. Livergood along with the city manager and see what we can come up with. We will get back with you, I'm just saying, but thank you for coming like I requested. It did not fall on deaf ears. We all heard you. It's beeping for me now, not you, okay?
Yes,
thank you.
Because I would like for our neighborhood, to be beautified too.
We got you. Thank you.
All right.
Good evening. Carissa Battle, 12202 Mahogany Drive, Boynton Beach, Florida. I just wanted to come and to personally thank Mayor Grant and Commissioner McCray for your attendance to our academic achievement at St. John Missionary Baptist Church on April the 30th. I am the first Vice President of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, a part of our South Palm Beach County Alumni Chapter. And with your presence really spoke volumes to our students because you encouraged them when you got up and you spoke to them. It also made us as constituents believe in Boynton, and we are here to work with the city to make sure that Boynton continues to be its best and to continue to be better. So I just wanted to say thank you. I was not able to make it to the first meeting of this month after the meeting because I had work duties that called, so I had to make sure I was there. But I did want to say thank you. I do have one of my sorority members that's sitting in the audience, so if you could stand, Ms. Gatson, or wave. She's also a Boynton resident, but I did want to say thank you because your presence really meant a lot to the students as well as to our organization. So we appreciate you for coming out on a Sunday. Have a great evening.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Hi, Susan Oyer, 140 Southeast 27th Way. First, I'd like to say thank you to Mayor Grant for coming to my classroom about 2 months ago, and I just haven't been here in that long to say thank you. And thank you for being brave enough to come back again next week. You are really taking your life in your hands next to last week of school to come to the last class of the day, as I'm sure Vice Mayor Katz can tell you how crazy they are at the end of every day. Second, I hope I will see all of you at the Conrad Piquel event. If I don't recall seeing any of you in the past, and it is outstanding. It is one of our city's premier events, so I hope to see you all there. I was privileged enough to have Conrad Piquel come to my house when I was a kid, so I met him several times as a child, a wonderful man, and we are lucky to have that amazing art here in our city for us to share. Number 3, thank you all so much for supporting my wristband fundraiser. Mayor Grant was nice enough to buy some wristbands. Several of the city employees have bought them over the last month or two. I hit my goal, so we will have planted 11,000 trees in the last 4 years. 5,000 trees will have gone into Haiti by the end of by summertime, and we will have put 6,000 trees across Africa. And I know one of our sister cities is in Haiti, and it's very close to the area where all the trees have been getting planted. I thought you'd appreciate that, Commissioner Romulus. And the last thing I would like to share is I was at the Inca meeting last night, and City Manager Lori Leverrier and Tim Howard, our Assistant City Manager, were there. They did an outstanding job. But somebody had mentioned something about permit and developer fees, and maybe they should be higher as a way to raise money, and I'm asking you to consider doing that as we move forward and look at our budget. So please consider raising the permit and developer fees, because they're getting what they want, which is higher density and higher height, which the residents do not want. So why don't we get something out of the deal and get some money for us? Thank you.
Hi, good evening. Michael Simon, Interim CRA Director. I just wanted to come this evening and let the City Commission and the public know that we are going to be hosting a Sarah Sims Master Plan Park input meeting, community meeting, to discuss the previously approved CRA master plan and park plan for Sarah Sims, and to discuss some conceptual ideas along the housing and some new housing concepts that we're trying to gain input from the community on. That will be on June 31st at Sarah Sims Park. At the Carolyn Sims Center. at 6:30. And it will also be presented again at the CRAB Board, the CRA Advisory Board meeting on June 1st, and then again at the CRA Board meeting on June 13th, and for the fourth time at the Parks and Recreation Board meeting at the end of the month. I believe it is on June 26th, on that Monday. So lots of opportunity for input, and we look forward to seeing the public out. Thank you.
Michael, again, it's Wednesday the 31st?
Wednesday the 31st of May.
May.
And then June 1st, the next night at the CRAB meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Michael, my question is, will this coincide with the Hardin-Boynton meeting?
I think is different day.
Okay, my take is, sir, you know, if you can just get with them and make sure that their presence is there. This is what I'm
We're planning on reaching out to many. I just
you,
took the opportunity for the public this evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Darren Romulus, 161 Southeast 28th Court, Boynton Beach, Florida, 33435. I just wanted to send greetings from Commissioner McBernard's office. Actually, currently, wanted to make sure we mention the meetings that you guys have been doing a really wonderful job. Want to actually congratulate Justin Katz on his election to CTA president, Mac McCray on your re-election into commissioner, and you all in terms of collaborating together. Thank you very much. Boynton Beach is home, and I want to recognize Officer Chief Katz with the release of the body cameras. You know, you are setting a standard, and I'm definitely excited to see what Boynton Beach is placing out there moving forward. We have two offices. Our offices are located in North County and South County area. We're actually at the Government Center, 301 North Olive Avenue on the 12th floor, as well in West Palm Beach, 33401. And you can reach us at our office at 355-2207. Our South County office is located at 345 South Congress Avenue in Delray Beach, and the area code is 33435. Just to give you a brief overview of our district, we represent many municipalities: Lake Park, Riviera, Town of Mangonia Park, West Palm Beach, Haverhill, the Town of Palm Beach, Lake Worth, Lantana, Hypoluxo, Delray Beach, and Boynton Beach. We also have the guides to services. Afterwards, we'll be able to leave those behind just so you can be able to have the information necessary in regards to guiding your way through the services that the county offers. And I wanted to invite you all on the 31st of this month to the housing summit that the county is hosting. I know that you guys have definitely put your best foot forward in terms of addressing the affordable housing, and we would like to invite the commission as well. I know you guys might have already received invitations. Again, I want to just extend greetings from Commissioner Bernard. He's currently at another commission meeting, and thank you very much.
Mr. Romulus, before you leave, we want to also extend congratulatories to Commissioner Costello. Although he was unopposed, he is back up here, okay? Thank you.
You knew that, though. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Commissioner Costello.
Good evening. My name is Herb Suss, 1711 Woodfern, Boynton Beach. In case anybody has doubted anything I've said about climate change, here's the bingo. You can convince yourself. I hope you write down what I tell you. It's very short. Write down Climate Explorer. Came across this on the internet. Enter your county, your city, or zip code, and you'll see what climate change and the rising waters are going to be doing to Boynton in the future, and by the end, and there's splits and glaciers. So just don't take my word for it anymore. And I think that the newspapers, if they get this, they ought to write down Climate Explorer, enter county or zip code or the city, and then for once they should report something that's detrimental to the whole country and to the world. The other thing I wanted to say is that I have also said time and time again that what happened, and I grew up during the 30s, and remember what happened prior to World War II, okay? What's happening then is happening now. And if anybody saw the TV tonight, unbelievable. I won't even go there. It's unbelievable what Trumpsky has done, giving information to the Ruskies, okay? So wake up, and you had all better understand what's going on, okay? The other more important thing also is, please, on climate change, I hope that this commission gets in touch with the governor and with the federal government, because there is a cabinet member from Oklahoma, Pruitt, who is now destroying evidence or anything on climate change. You can't even get it. The government has shut it down. This is totalitarianism. Fake news, the hell with that. It's not fake news. This is exactly what's happening, what happened in Nazi Germany in the 30s. I hope everybody here wakes up, and I hope that the newspapers pick up this Climate Explorer, enter county, zip code, or city to find out what climate change and water. By the end of this century, I hope Mar-a-Lago goes under. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, hi. My name is Rashad. Last name Ali. 1851 Renaissance Commons Boulevard, Boynton Beach, Florida 33426. I believe some of you may know who I am. I've given you phone calls. You were invited me over, and I came over, and I wanted to talk to you about three things, and more like bullet points. I've already spoken with Vice Mayor Katz. Thank you very much for calling me back several times. The first one, of course, was the Parks and Recreation regarding the proration, in which I was told that was a no-go in regarding to the passes being prorated, especially if we buy it because of due to the fiscal year, and a logistical nightmare for the city of Boynton Beach. So it's not going to be prorated, correct?
Correct.
Okay. The second part was also Parks and Recreation, disabled vet discounts or access to the parks, whether they live in the whether they live in the city of Boynton Beach or not. So that's something to think about. The third one was was something completely different. Was a noise ordinance. I've went into your charters or where you have it, and it was very vague as far as the noise ordinance. I saw something where there was a generator, how it could run 72 decibels, but nothing about my neighbor and how late they could stay and create noise and things like that. Or, well, I live in the city of what is it, Compson Place Apartments, so they have that, constantly playing music and things like that over there. Amplified speakers and things like that all the time, and it's resonating against the windows of the neighbors. So I would hopefully you could look at that ordinance and things like that and maybe make it a little more clear, because right now the way it is, it's very vague. The police has come out there several times, and there's nothing they can do about it because it states nothing really in there that's black and white. It's just vague. And they keep repeating the same offenses over and over again without any kind of first offense or second offense.
Do you have a location that's doing this?
This is actually different neighbors in my building.
Okay.
Yeah, and they cause different types of noise, maybe like about midnight, 11 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning, and things like that. And the police come out there after about an hour or so because they have other calls, in which I understand. But they're still out there causing a lot of noise, and for those who work nights and things like that, it's very difficult. Or days. It just causes a problem. And there's really no kind of offense or anything like that that's going on about it. They just keep coming out every time and saying, oh, please stop the noise, oh, please stop the noise, and that's it. Usually for other items, whether it be a decibel violation or something like that, for a noise ordinance that is in there that is very vague regarding a generator. The first offense is, I believe, 125 or 150, and the second offense is 250 or something like that. But there's nothing in there regarding a neighbor causing any kinds of noise, whether it be a radio amplified noise or whatever have you.
Do you live in an apartment complex or a condo?
Correct.
And so the walls aren't thick enough?
Well, no, we have, they start playing very loud music about 12 o'clock midnight and things like that, and it causes a problem. And they could very well do it because there's really no ordinance that says, hey, at a certain time, you can't be over a certain amount of decibels between so and so time.
So it's the business venues that are making the
No, they're also there. They're also doing it as well. But there's not. It covers nothing for anyone. If you find something like that, please let me know. I've asked Vice Mayor Katz to look in on it as well. But it's one of the 3 bullet points I just wanted to break.
On the venues that are there, the businesses I'm talking about, how late do they play their music to?
About 1, 2 o'clock in the morning sometimes.
They will?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Seeing no more public comment, it is now closed. Moving on to administrative. We have a few advisory boards openings. We have 1 available for the Arts Commission. We have 4 for the Building Board of Adjustments and Appeals. 1 available for the Planning and Development Board. 1 available for the Recreation and Parks Board. And 2 available for the Senior Advisory Board. Next we have authorized myself to travel to Orlando for the Florida League of Cities Legislative Policy Committee. Last year, I was on the Legislative Policy Committee for Growth Management and Economics. The 2 bullet points that we had was for impact fees and CRAs. We helped create policy statements or for the legislation, and as you know, the CRA bill did not pass, and there is no change to the impact fees. So I would like the Commission's approval to go back to the Florida League of Cities.
Mayor, let me make sure I have these dates right. Thursday, August 17th, that is correct? So it's 3 different, it's Thursday, Friday, and then another Thursday.
Correct.
Since you already got your feet wet, so move.
How will you be traveling there?
I'll be driving. I will hopefully look to carpool. I was able to carpool last year with someone, and so I will hopefully be able to do that too, because I did not believe I charged the city for mileage.
I'll second that.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Mayor, if you don't mind, while we're on the topic, I did register for an event. It was the Institute for Elected Officials training or something like that. They sent an email to me letting me know, because it had been canceled last year because of the hurricane, so they've rescheduled this year. The costs have already been paid for. I just don't know what else may be any new charges, so I don't know how do we address this because it's June 2nd, so we wouldn't get a meeting to approve any expenditures that would come before I go. So I just want to make sure. I don't know if Lori can chime in on this. Do we need to do anything to approve any expenditures that might come from that trip?
Local?
It's in Tampa, I believe.
Well, then you can just just bring it up. Let the commission approve it tonight.
Requesting the city to pay for the hotel?
From what I understand, it's already been taken care of because, again, all they did was just cancel, so we just had to reschedule it for now.
Okay. So
it's been
already approved.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. But speaking about these types of associations that the city is part of, I'd like the commission to think about the other associations like the National League of City. There's also the U.S. Conference of Mayors, the Florida League of Mayors. I actually got a letter from the U.S. Conference of Mayors for their annual conference that's going to be held in Miami Beach. I am not going to be in town that weekend, and so I gave that information to Vice Mayor Katz to see if he was interested, and so I think that's something that we should look into next year's budget if we want to join any of these additional associations.
Are we already members of the National League?
No,
no.
Sir.
We're not.
At one time we were.
Yeah, I know it was.
The Florida League. We focus mostly on the state levels.
When does that information city manager comes out for us to join, and what's the cost? I'm just.
I think we're gonna. I'm gonna bring the information for a couple of the associations to the budget hearing, so that the commission can decide whether that we want to do some, none, or all.
Sir, since you're going to bring it, I'm just saying if you can give it to her that we can get it, so that I don't like to get information when I'm just sitting there. I like to get information so I can digest, if I could have it prior to me coming there.
It won't be approved until July for the budget.
We're not approving, but I need to prior so I can at least look over and see if there's any literature, anything stating I need to read something. I need to read it before I get to the budget. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Thank you.
Moving on to consent agenda. May I have a motion to approve?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Bids and purchases over $100,000. Proposed resolution number R17-046, award bid number for replacement of packaged rooftop HVAC units at the Ezell Hester Community Center, and authorize the city manager to sign a contract with Summa Mechanical Contractors, LLC, doing business as SMC Air Conditioning of Davie, Florida, as the lowest responsible bidder in the total lump sum amount of $91,337 plus a 10% contingency of $9,133 for a total potential expense amount of $100,470. May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Discussion.
Okay.
I'd like to ask the city manager, how long have we been piecemealing the air conditioner over there at Hester Center?
Lean on Jeff on that one, but I know it's been a problem for quite some time. So it's an expensive budgeted capital item that we need to get done.
Right. I realize it's an expensive thing.
I mean, has it been leaking for at least a year? 3, okay. So 3 or 4.
I'm not doubting that we need it, but I'm just saying I just want the public to understand that this is something that it's an ongoing problem. We're not trying to fix that problem. This is all I'm saying. Thank you.
My next question is that, are we getting a warranty? Is this a new air conditioning unit? I got a head nod that it is a new air conditioning unit. That's fine. Is there any other further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes. Proposed resolution number R17-047. Award bid to the low bidder Bofam Construction Company Inc. of Miami, Florida for the construction of the Northeast 20th Avenue stormwater improvements, and authorize the city manager to sign a contract in the amount of $614,000 plus a 10% contingency of $61,000 for a total estimated amount of $675,806.04. May I have a motion to approve?
I'd like for somebody from staff to address this first. I'm just saying before we move on, so we know what we're doing.
We have a little presentation we'd like to show you.
Okay, we have a presentation. Wonderful.
Good evening. Bevan Spigot, Interim Utilities Director. Mayor Katz.
Microphone a little bit up.
I'm sorry. Vice Mayor Katz, Mayor Grant, Commissioners. This project was identified because of frequent flooding in the Northeast 20th area. Again, just a very quick presentation. This gives you a quick overview of the actual area in question. I'm going to zoom in a little bit here, but as you can see, the area that in question that we're actually going to, this project treats goes from Gateway down to Northeast 20th with several spurs off Northeast 2nd Court and Northeast 21st. The actual project is going to entail mitigating the localized flooding by installing about 1,650 linear feet of 24-inch diameter exfiltration trench, along with 3,000 linear feet of swales and 25 inlets and catch basins. Substantial completion for the project after notice to proceed should be about 120 days. And again, the contract amount was $614,369.13 with a contingency of 10%. For a total of $675,000 and $806.04. And again, this project is just to mitigate some of the localized flooding in that area.
Wasn't this one of the neighborhoods that when we had that big rain in January 9th, that we had several homes that went way under? Yes, they had terrible. I remember when we did our assessment.
So this project should hopefully mitigate that going forward.
Finally fix that one.
Okay, let me address some of that. I'm just saying when Joyce and Bo Frazier, they had this big rain came and the flooding and all that stuff, and it has not happened again. But we assured them that anything that will come up, we will help them so that it will not happen again. And every time it starts to rain, I always call them and said, check and make sure that nothing is going on. And they said, no, we're okay, we're good. And I want to just tell you all, thank you for stepping up to the plate to correct a problem that only nature can do. We didn't have anything to do with it because of 95. Appreciate it.
Let me ask a question, if I could, to the city manager here. This company's out of Miami. We've talked about local businesses getting some of the local work here, and the scope of this project's obviously pretty large, over $500,000. Is this a type of project that could be broken into smaller sections and local companies could bid on?
We would first have to, which is what we're working on now as part of our community wealth building, is to modify our procurement procedures to allow us. Now, I don't know what the practicality on the utility side, I'll ask Colin, in terms of the actual type of work like we're going to be doing that with the sidewalk work and so forth that we'll be doing in the near future. But one, we have to change our procedures, change our bid requirements, which is things we're working on now. But practicality, I can't speak to that.
Yeah, Colin Groff, Assistant City Manager. That's a great question, actually. We're looking at every one of our projects to see how we can break it down. These type of projects are very difficult because you can't have two contractors out there working at the same time. So you really need one contractor to work. You know, one of the things we have to do is identify local contractors that can do this size project. And there may be some out there that we have not identified. But we do have to change our procurement policies because right now it is low bid, and that's who wins it. So we have to add some incentives in our bidding process that allows people to win it if they're within a percentage of being low bid.
Which is what we're working on now. It's just not an overnight thing. And I think, you know, Tim has done some research, and we've pulled up some good other cities that can give us a good template to move forward. But it's going to be several months before we can, you know, get changes in there. And we're also in the middle of identifying the local businesses in the community.
Right.
We're taking a look through our BTR records and through some of our other permitting information to identify and develop a database. That's one of David Scott's tasks that he's working with development, and to identify the businesses that are actually out there so we could actually eventually directly reach out and notify well in advance that, hey, we've got this kind of project coming up next year in our capital program. Start getting yourself ready. What can we do to help? As far as preparing them to be able to be responsive to a bid. So we're developing that program as part of our community wealth building. It's just taking some time.
I look forward to that being implemented. You know, these companies coming up from Miami doing work in Boynton. I'd like to see it be more localized.
And we're going to encourage local hiring too from companies, even if they're bigger projects and companies are coming from out of town, that they do pick up local subs and local people that can, because that's another way to get the local businesses involved and build that wealth. If it's a bigger project like this. So we're going to work on all of those fronts to keep as much money that we spend in the town as possible.
Right.
Well, you just said what I needed to hear. You said local. I'm just saying local hiring, et cetera. That's what
we're going to incentivize in our programs as we build them.
One of our #1 strategic plan initiatives.
So my question.
Give us time to get it done.
Yes, we just need a little. It takes a lot of work to get these written.
Right. My question regarding 20th Northeast Avenue and I guess 2nd Northeast Court regarding you're building swales, and is that taking of anybody's property, or what is? And then
just installation of swales, in the right of way.
So that means that in the right of way that is
public right of way.
Public right of way.
Correct.
And does the city plan on redoing any of the sidewalks that they mess up, or doing additional sidewalks along that area? Because there are some sidewalks on 20th.
I know typically in projects of this size, we typically handle sidewalks that get disturbed.
Okay.
We'll always replace.
We also replace sidewalks that we.
And is there any sort of in the works to connect sidewalks? Because there's a sidewalk, then there's not a sidewalk, and then there is a sidewalk.
I don't believe that was a part of this project. No.
And if so, what can we do to connect sidewalks within the city of Boynton Beach?
I'll try to answer that quickly. We do look at that at every project. This particular project we're not, mainly because there's only so much in the budget to do sidewalks, and we've committed a lot of the funds this year to the South Seacrest project because there was a lot of need there. What we will do, though, is if there's sidewalks that are broken or we damage them during this, we'll replace them. If there's a small gap and we're replacing them and we can throw a little bit in, we try to do that, but it's not part of the project on this particular project. This is strictly a flooding mitigation project. So that's all we're trying to do is mitigate flooding.
Well, okay. And so if it does flood, then the people have to walk in the street?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It floods, people have to walk on the street, yes,
right.
If the swales are flooded. But the swales are theoretically to drain. That's what we designed it for.
Okay.
We'll see if the engineers are right.
Okay.
Let me ask you a question. Have you all notified the residents that live on these streets about when this is going to start and when it's going to end?
We have already. I believe that there's also a kickoff meeting as a part of this project that would actually handle any sort of public notification to the residents as well.
Kickoff meeting. When is the kickoff meeting?
After notice to proceed.
We have to agree first.
Yeah.
All right. After we agree, then you come back. You're going to give me a kickoff date.
Correct.
I represent District 2.
Absolutely.
And then you're going to notify the residents there.
We will.
I'm going to trust you. Okay.
Yes.
All right. If they don't have like an organized HOA, we do letters to the residents, don't we?
Yes, we do.
I know, like in the Seacrest
secret code.
That's easy because they've got a very well organized HOA. So we'll look for that first. But at the very least, letters will go to each of the residents.
Or they don't have an organized HOA. I'm going to answer
right. So
that
we'll
for
go
you now.
individually. No, that's what we will absolutely do.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Seeing none, motion passes unanimously. Next, proposed resolution number R17-048, award to the lowest pre-qualified bidder, Institute Form Technologies LLC, as determined by review of bids submitted on April 10, 2017, resulting from the responses to the request for bids for cured-in-place pipe lining, and authorize the city manager to sign a contract in the amount of $138,190.30 for the duration of the project based on unit costs provided by Institute Form Technologies LLC in their respective bid. May I have a motion to approve?
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes. When will this terminate, Lori? I'm just saying, it said, until duration. How long is duration?
I need his help.
What was the question? I'm sorry.
I need to know how long is this contract up. I'm just saying it said duration. I'm just saying duration could be, we might not be here when duration finished.
Okay.
You don't have to get it now, sir,
No,
but
off the
I'm
top
just
of your
saying,
head, Tim?
I'm not sure.
You don't.
How long? 75 days.
And you are
Is the
assistant city
duration of
manager?
the project.
Thank you, Tim. Okay, yeah, you're supposed to be
Buried in
recognized.
here
Okay,
somewhere.
75 days.
Yep.
Okay, I'm good. All right, thank you.
This, we've had lining of the pipes before, haven't we? Here, is this the same company that's done it previously?
Instituform is a company that does a lot of that work. It's
Is this the same one that was in Boynton before? That did the same?
We've definitely used them.
We've used them before?
Yes, we have.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's a really cool technology because you can go in and line existing pipes instead of having to actually remove. They go in and blow up and line. It's a pretty cool technology, and it's Instituform Air, just so because it's a tough one, isn't it?
Yeah, Instituform. Anyway.
Instituform.
Instituform.
I don't know who their marketing director was, but.
Okay. Did we have a motion? Yep.
Yes.
All those. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Seeing none, motion passes unanimously. Proposed resolution number R17-049, authorize the city manager to sign a 3-year contract with ESRI of West Palm Beach, Florida for a small government enterprise license agreement through a sole source with a total cost of $150,000. May I have a motion to approve?
Second.
Would you like a discussion?
Sure. What is ESRI, the acronym? What does that stand for? Somebody?
Someone who's not a technical person. It's basically the base software, John, yell at me if I misspeak, to run our GIS systems. Correct? That's correct. Yeah. So our geographical information systems?
Correct.
GIS is what it stands. That's what it stands.
John McNally, ITS Director. Yes, and I don't believe ESRI actually is an acronym for anything. That is just their name. Yes.
No, it stands for Environmental Systems Research Institute.
Well, there you go.
Thank you. See? I'm okay now, Mayor. Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. I was reading the invoice. That's all.
Okay, they should have read it. Thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Good.
No. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Seeing none, motion passes unanimously. No code compliance or legal settlements. No public hearing. City manager's report. Lori, I want to know if next month you can give us an update of the town square.
Sure. Yeah, I just sent you an email today.
Okay.
To the commission to let you know kind of where we are. We're meeting.
Yeah, so let you just give a report to the city as well.
Okay.
Next, 11A, receive staff update on group homes moratorium and corresponding zoning study.
Thank you. Mike Rump, your Planning Zoning Director. If the AV room can, it has. Oops, sorry. We're set to go. The City Commission approved a moratorium in January 17th, to allow time for city staff to review our current circumstance involving the regulation of group homes. This is not a new topic in the area, in the media, something we're all very familiar with due to combination of things, of course, particularly given the fact that we're a sister community to Delray Beach, who's received a lot of negative press and attention, and basically the epicenter of some real issues involving drug addictions and deaths. We received over the years or past year a lot of complaints from local residents and property owners regarding potential impacts of group homes upon their community. We've considered whether there is any type of overconcentration of group homes. Anyway, Ordinance 16-025 on January 17th was approved, putting in place a 6-month moratorium until June 4th to allow us to study the zoning matter. We're oftentimes asked, how many are there in the city? It's difficult because from day one when we first started receiving applications for a group home or sober home, they weren't labeled as such. So there's probably many that are even approved, that are approved in the city that operate, which were not given proper labels, which allow us to research. So our list is really estimated based upon known information. Objectives and challenges of our project and study. Well, obviously to evaluate existing regulations. It's also to have a good understanding of the rules that are in place that limit or affect what we do and have control over, namely the ADA and FHA, the federal level. We wanted to maintain a defensible set of regulations, very important to us. And like I just mentioned, there is an issue of social responsibility. We can't at the same time over-regulate, perhaps even in violation of federal regulations, an industry in place while the industry is needed to be effective and to assist with the recovery of addicts. And we need to, but we also need to preserve neighborhood character. Interestingly, that the reason that single-family neighborhoods are targeted for group homes as part of the treatment and system of getting people back into the community, into society, is because of the characteristics of a single-family neighborhood. Those characteristics can easily be impacted and thrown out of balance. That's one of the things we want to do through potential regulations, is to preserve that while also maintaining compliance with federal regulations. Potential regulations that we're considering right now involve certification requirements of homes, considering reinforcing a distance separation to prevent, again, the change in the dynamic or characteristic of the desired single-family neighborhoods. We are looking at how we define the different types, increasing parking requirements because that's one of the most visible impacts physically on a piece of property because they're not designed for that many cars oftentimes, which represent driver age in a household. And of course, protecting front yards from being overparked or overpaved and so forth. Current anticipated schedule, we are packaging up the amendments right now to go before the Plan Development Board next week. We'll follow up in first reading public hearing format in June and adoption in July under that current schedule.
Are you done?
Yes, sir.
Okay, just one quick couple of quick questions. Is the separation from 300 to 1,000 feet, would that limit, I think Delray Beach just passed something like that, where they can have, they have to be separated by a certain distance, or only can be so many homes allowed on a certain street? Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, there's a lot of activity coming out of the city of Delray Beach right now, and I don't think the ordinance itself has been adopted yet.
Right.
The study has been revealed, of course, by a very prominent and reputable land use attorney. I have that. I've been looking at the study itself, which I just received this past week or last week. The ordinance hasn't been. So I'm waiting to see what they have. I'm working closely with John Lehman, who is the CEO of FAR, the Florida Association of Recovery Residences. Working very closely with them.
He attends our sober home meetings.
So how we compare, I'm not really sure. I think we're using the same basis for distance separation generally. It may not be the same standard. I have no opposition to standardizing our process with other communities. In fact, I think that's one of my platforms, is to support the state and FAR certification of the homes to standardize a certification and approval and oversight process. by doing that, they really become a close brother of ours in this process, and that's really good because they do our enforcement for us.
You know, this is all great moratoriums, but here in Boynton Beach, we had 45 overdoses and 3 deaths in like 2 days. It's unacceptable. And, you know, I don't have an answer for it, but, you know, I think we've got to somehow, some way, you know, it's not all about the sober home's failure. I think that, you know, how we stem the tide of this heroin that's coming into these areas. I think there's got to be a bigger effort to crack down on the flow of heroin into our cities. You know, as long as there's addicts, there's always going to be a supply. And I think that we've got to start shutting this off at the supply. But having 45 overdoses and 3 deaths here in Boynton Beach in 2 days is totally, totally unacceptable.
Have you finished?
Yep.
Okay, I'd just like to say, you know, in regards to what Commissioner Casello just said, I'd like to say to the police department, I thank you for what you have done over in District 2. There has been a decrease, I'm just saying, with the sale, et cetera. You know what I'm talking about. On my street, on Northwest 4th Street, there's 2 sober homes that I know have closed down. So I know that you all are making an impact, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Mike, if you could go back to that slide with this one. So what I'd like to preferably see is the number go closer towards the 1,000-foot range rather than 300, because if you look at a situation like Riviera Drive, where you have several homes on one street, I believe 300 is not enough. 300 feet is not enough of a separation to not prevent another Riviera Drive situation. In addition to that, also what I'm looking at in this ordinance as we create it is, are we looking at existing homes, existing group homes that are now an issue or now a problem? Are we going to be addressing them? Are we going to do things to curb their current effect on our city? Will they have to come into compliance, especially with what you referenced with FAR? Are we going to have them, maybe when they're renewing their BTRs, have to be certified with FAR in order to receive a new BTR? Are we going to require BTR? So these are some of the things that I would like to see addressed in this ordinance, and I believe this will give us as a city a lot more strength to do the things that we're trying to do.
Mike, this anything that we do now, it wouldn't affect the existing homes that are already there. This would only be for potentially new homes putting in for a license or certification.
It's a very good question and topic. It's not to say that regulations can't somehow go into effect on existing ones. It isn't as if they're, I mean, we need to give them reasonable time, I think, to do it, but I don't think there's anything that prevents us from saying all existing homes prior to a certain date must become certified. We'll work closely with the City Attorney's Office on that, but I think we can do that.
That's what I'm looking for.
I think it just comes down to the reasonable amount of time to do it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Really, the 1,000-foot distance separation has been in place for some time, and I think, I don't think the City Attorney's Office will support it because of court precedence, number one. It's hard to justify. What I've tried to do is find the proper balance of preserving the neighborhood character, because I don't think we can prove that they need to be 1,000 feet apart to preserve the character, to preserve the dynamic. I don't think we can prove that the 1,000-foot separation is necessary to prevent a zoning scheme impact. I understand Riviera Drive is the basis for my study. We evaluated that very closely. We came up with traffic data. We came up with emergency call data for Riviera Drive, and I first started applying that. But we've come up with the 300. In fact, right now I'm leaning toward a 2 for every 300 feet. I don't know if we want to go into things at this level, but I've been saying this at very much detailed.
Just to be clear, 300 feet is about what, four houses apart, maybe 3 or 4 houses apart? Is that what 300 feet separation means?
Yes, it could be.
So that basically means you would be recreating Riviera Drive, even if we were to put this ordinance in place.
Let me rudely interrupt you and say this.
Correct me if, yeah, please.
Well, not correcting you, but there's one missing ingredient in this conversation. We want to attack this at all levels. We want to attack the problem. And even one of the first things that was said was really on a law enforcement level. Yes, it goes without saying. Someone else will have to be up here speaking to that matter, and not your zoning administrator. But what's key is the first item on that recommended list, and that is certification. If you have certified operators, both the operations and the businesses themselves, the homes, think you're going to have a significant different impact in an area. If you look at the criteria, the certification requirements of FAR, the last category has to do with having an action plan in place to listen to and address neighborhood complaints. That's key. You're not going to have the out of control. Understand, we're dealing with a lot of the homes, and perhaps a very important question is, how do we get the old existing homes certified? That's right, and I think we do have a sunsetting measure or something that goes into place over time. That's key. It's the bad apples that are spoiling the bunch. If you have a certified home, you probably should not know it's there unless someone comes out and volunteers, because they are encouraged, and there's programs in place to get those individuals involved in volunteering and active in supporting the positive image that they have in the community, or not even being known.
Not to jump ahead, onto the chronic nuisance code that's coming up on the agenda, but as a business, locations that might see multiple overdoses would be subject to that potential chronic nuisance code?
These homes are twofold. They have rental, business tax receipt approvals, let's just say approvals, rental approvals, as well as the group home approval. So I believe that through that ordinance, those things could be revoked.
What if like an owner / operator of a property had multiple locations spread out? Is a chronic nuisance, again, not to jump ahead, but is it site specific, or would it also be potentially owner specific if someone operated 4 or 5 site specific? Okay.
I think along that line, understand something. FAR is pretty incredible. Pretty. There's a reason why the state of Florida is recognizing them and assigned them the responsibility of oversight. If someone comes to apply for them and they have 2 or 3, they won't just license one of or certify one of those facilities. They will have to certify each and every one of them.
Just for the record, there are a lot of good home operators. We hear about the bad ones out there, but there are literally a bunch of good sober home or recovery home operators out there trying to do the right thing. It's these bad apples that we hear about that gives the industry a bad name and taints it. So, we definitely need these type of homes, but the regulation, I think, is a huge part. I think it got way out of control. Let this, the criminal element into it. FAR, it's great, and they are. But here's one of the issues is that, there's no funding. They don't want to fund these agencies that have oversight. And with no funding, it's hard to implement what you were signed up to do. So hopefully that the state legislators, up there in Tallahassee get this. And I know this was just the start, this last legislative session up there where they really started to get into these recovery homes, and hopefully they can build upon it next year.
Mike, if you can, just educate us a little bit on FAR, because what I'm seeing is that a lot of regulation in the past has just been, okay, let's put a price tag on how much it costs to get into this industry, but then the regulation ends there. Is that what they're doing, or are they going to be able to actually create more of a hard regulation that will make sure these people are actually held accountable for what they're doing and not just they have to pay a price tag to get into this industry?
Sure. It's a good question. And the same rationale that I caution us, and I'm using caution in applying very strict regulations because of the federal requirements, is the same thing that really has slowed them in applying some mandatory across-the-board certification requirement, because there are homes that may not need it. There are other options. So they're cautious in applying that mandatory system. That's why it's attempted to be incentivized at this point, involving the referral system. That's why the current bill, if you look at the majority of the bill, has to do with preventing the end runs. In other words, many facilities now, in order to get referrals, I mean, you need residents, right? You need clients and residents and people in those homes to exist. Right now, under the current legislation or the current laws, You cannot get referrals from the treatment entities or agencies without being a certified home and operator. So many are trying to get around that. And they're trying to get those people, they're trying to solicit, they're trying to market the customers, the people, the residents in alternative ways. The current bill attacks that process through rules, regulations, and I guess most importantly, a legal system that increases the penalty for doing that, marketing unlawfully and so forth. Brokering, as the word is.
Patient brokering, that's the label.
Right.
All right, well, I have a few things to say. So this applies to all group homes, not just recovery residences.
In order to be defensible, yes, the more neutral regulations that we apply, the more defensible and safe we are against being accused of being biased and discriminatory.
Correct. And so this way, let's say, you know, if a recovery residence is on a street, then someone who wants to have a group home for the elderly or the blind would not be able to have that.
Under the current draft, yes,
Yeah,
the separation
okay.
apply to them all.
And then I guess you do have some information regarding the recovery residents with your discussions with FAR. Do these residents plan on being permanently in Boynton Beach, or is it more of a temporary?
Which residents?
The recovery residents. You know, they plan on staying in Boynton Beach at the group home, at the recovery residence in perpetuity, or until they?
As long as there's a need.
As long as there's a need, okay. Good to know. And then I guess also for the public, the website is faronline.org, FARRONLINE.org. They have a lot of information regarding their nonprofit organization. They try to follow under what's called the National Association of Recovery Residents, NAR. They also allow, under standards and ethics, allow for complaints and grievances against a certified or non-certified recovery residents, and we currently have 9 in the city of Boynton Beach, what they say is a certified recovery residence. And so, yep, I'd like for Mike for you to move forward. I also like to thank Del Rey for spending the money for the study. And is there any further discussion?
Is there any to continue the moratorium, extend it at all?
Staff is not recommending that it be extended now.
Okay, and so what would happen if someone applied on June 5th for a group home BTR in the city of Boynton Beach?
We have zoning in progress, basically, which we feel continues that moratorium process. Since, particularly given the fact that it will already have been in an approval process, we can continue to withhold processing of applications inconsistent with where we're going.
Because of the May P&D board here?
Correct.
Okay.
So at this point in time, do group homes in the city of Boynton Beach, do they need a BTR to operate in our city?
They do.
Okay.
Need both a rental approval for the property and a BTR for the operation of a group home.
Kind of held hostage by any group home operator, which, you know, they defy HOA guidelines, and then it becomes, you know, a protracted legal situation. Is there anything the city can do in terms of language or you know, attached to this ordinance or otherwise to strengthen the support for existing communities with HOAs to be able to have recourse, or is that just kind of in their hands?
We don't have jurisdiction over the HOA rules and docs, so I'm guessing no. I'd have to put more thought into it and discuss that with the city attorney's office.
I can tell you, being an HOA president, anybody moving into our neighborhood has to fill out a document saying what they, you know, what they're actually going to use the home for, if it's a rental, how many people, you know, we get all their personal information on there, so they just couldn't.
Problem in some communities, they don't declare any of that, and then they're just there, and then they sit on a lawsuit while, you know, they're churning out profits.
Yeah, the HOA has some power as far as legal powers.
Mike, one last question. So as we issue BTRs to these group homes as the moratorium is lifted, are we going to place a stipulation that they need to be certified by FARR?
Once you approve your ordinance, yes.
ask the question because I heard we said that we have 9 homes that's been certified by FARR.
I think that's what was looked up, yes.
Okay, can I get the address of those that's been certified?
Yes, you can.
Thank you.
No more discussion? Thank you.
I do just want to take the time to thank Mike Rumpf and the rest of staff for taking the diligence and the time to work on this. This has been a very important topic for us. So again, I commend staff for their diligent hours of working on this and creating the ordinance to make this ordinance possible and to help give some relief to the residents of Boynton Beach with this situation. Thank you.
Moving on to item 11B, which is proposed medical cannabis dispensary ordinance. Vice Mayor Katz, would you like to begin?
Yeah, I brought this back up just in lieu of it coming up in the future at the next meeting with our proposed ordinance, and the reason is because I've had a handful of conversations with constituents, for and against this type of business, and at the previous meeting when we discussed it, I kind of indicated with regards to the type of business or the specific business that would come in, the vendor or the company. We talked about lottery versus a process where the commission would have a review of the potential business. At first, I didn't really have a specific opinion about it. At first, I indicated that I was in favor of reviewing it as a commission. Through some conversation up here, I kind of leaned towards the lottery system. Since then, just because of how controversial it is to some constituents, again, both for and against it, I'd just like to revisit that portion of the potential ordinance and say that just for safe measure, I'd like that the commission be able to review potential applicants for that business when it does open up. So I know at the last meeting we discussed it, and it kind of, I believe the vote or consensus was 3-2 in favor of a lottery, but I'd like to change my position there just to have more authority over the potential business.
More of even though it wasn't a motion, it's just a reconsideration. As you were on the prevailing side, I'll definitely allow the conversation. I guess, Andrew, would you like to come up and, as for me with the lottery, and I mean, we were charging $10,000 for a lottery ticket, but a lottery application. Would that change regarding if it was up to the discretion? Because, if they don't win, can you please explain what you would do differently if it's no longer a lottery?
Sure. Andrew Mack, Director of Development. Currently, we're on schedule to have this ordinance read at the P&D board is May 23rd. So any of the changes that you would want to make would have to happen between first and second reading, or you could bring them up. We could discuss them at the first reading. Currently, the ordinance as written is a lottery, as you stipulated. The applicants would come in and put in their application, pay their fee, and then there would be a lottery system as the luck of the draw of who would win. That would not come back to the commission at this point. There is some oversight as they would be required as a conditional use. So there would be some oversight coming back to the commission as the location that they would be they would be at. So based on the conditional use aspect of the zoning, it would be required to come back to the commission to review it at that time. The other alternative would be to put it into an RFP, like a request for proposal type of situation, where they would then submit, and then those would be ranked on a criteria by a selection committee, then brought back to the commission for an award type of style. There are some sample ordinances that are out there that are to that effect. And then the other option that's out there is where they're first come, first serve, where whoever's the first person to put in an application would be the first one in the door.
Yeah, I'm not happy with the first come, first serve. I'm open to the idea of having, two in the neighborhood, in the city, because we don't know exactly what effect it's going to have when we come, when we allow the ability for these vendors to come into the city. And I think I'm going to do what you propose, is that have the citizen input on May 23rd at the P&D board meeting. So I guess, Vice Mayor, if any of your constituents that you spoke to had any questions, that they go through the P&D, and then we have the first reading and second reading. And also, I guess, would tell Andrew that, you know, it may have changed instead of having the lottery system, so if we could have an alternative available.
That's why I wanted to bring it up, just so it didn't come up in real time after you were, up against the first reading.
Yeah, and the good thing is that also due to the cancellation of the July 5th, we have a little bit more time between first and second reading to actually amend the ordinance if necessary. So we also, with that, we are waiting for what was going to happen at the legislature. Obviously, at this time, the legislature did not approve any amendments to the state statutes. So we're still waiting on whether there would be a special session, and also on the final adoption of the rules by the Department of Health.
Donna, yes.
Yeah, the Department of Health is not going to finalize their rules, or they have until July 3rd to finalize their rules, so it'd be a little bit premature to finalize anything before you get the finalized rules.
Okay.
That's their deadline is July 3rd of this year.
So I guess that's kind of like we're going to what we think is best, and then you will make a determination of what is legal.
Correct.
Based upon the Department of Health's rules.
Correct. As one of the bill amendments that came out through the state legislature was a preemption on distance separation, for instance.
Yeah.
Currently ours is 1,000 feet. They were proposing 500. So something like that would have been amended between first and second reading. We would have changed the bill to be compliant with the state statutes. So any rules that come out of the rule making from the Department of Health, we'll make sure we incorporate them in.
1 second, Commissioner McCray. And so I also saw that they are having bills regarding treating it like a pharmacy, and that you can't create it more restrictive than a pharmacy. And so we are actually doing it more restrictive than a pharmacy. Is that correct?
I did see some of that sample language in the amended ordinance. It was a last day amendment that came. I haven't had a chance to research it with the city attorney to see what the effect would be on our zoning, and that wasn't approved
pending
anyway.
Legislation?
Well, yeah, I just saw that as a pending legislation.
Yeah, it all died.
It all died.
None
so
of it passed.
So it doesn't matter.
Correct. There was no amendments approved to the state statutes. Correct. So unless the governor convenes a special session where they would take up the matter again, I guess it's dead at this point until the Department of Health makes rules.
Commissioner McCray.
Thank you. And Andrew, in regards to our first reading, I'm just saying if we want to make changes, like saying we don't want the Florida lottery system, not Florida lottery, the lottery system, kind of thinking about Powerball, I'm sorry. But anyway, moving right along, we can put it in there then at that first reading.
Correct.
Thank you. That's what I need to have clarified. I'm good.
Mayor, question on when we talk about the commission having the opportunity to review rather than lottery, outside of the zoning requirements that the applicant must meet and outside of the review during conditional use for the commission to make a decision on whether or not to approve that, what authority does, and this is kind of steered toward Shauna, what authority does the commission have, what criteria, what is it that you think you'll be looking at to make a decision on whether you should pick applicant A or B? And is there any legal merit or basis for the commission to have the authority to even do that?
That's what I would need to know is what type of criteria you're considering, because for example, if you have zoning and separation requirements for car dealerships, you wouldn't say, well, we want to figure out how many Chevrolets we can have and how many Dodge dealerships we can have. It would just be they came in, they filled out their application, do they meet the zoning and separation requirements, and we accept them or we don't. So if you would like us to consider certain types of criteria, we would need to find that out from you specifically so we can evaluate whether or not those criteria would be legally permissible.
That's what, and that's going to take some time. I think that's where I wanted to raise that. It's outside of what's already in play. Those specific requirements. What else do you want to look at? Right.
Correct.
And can we? Do you have that authority legally?
Right.
I guess.
And with the lottery, that was not an issue. And because we have the DOH rules, which will be finalized by July 3rd, we have that amount of time to consider both your proposed criteria as well as the finalized rules from the Department of Health.
Romulus.
Right, and thank you City Manager Lori for bringing up that question, because that was my main argument as to why we should probably stay with the lottery system. Because, correct me if I'm wrong, Andrew, there are 7 growers that have been selected by the state of Florida, and it's out of those 7 that are allowed to create dispensaries, and it's those dispensaries that would be being put in the city of Boynton Beach. So those 7 growers have already been vetted, researched. They can only be in business they have to be in business for at least the past 40 years. There are lots of different criteria already on them, correct?
Correct. There's very strict criteria that the state uses to select a grower. That would be, again, it's vertical integration, where they have to go from seed to sale. So they would be responsible for the whole process. That's currently how it's laid out.
But we don't know what the Department of Health could do if they want to increase the growers.
I believe that's by state statute.
No, they cannot change it. So it's only the 7 growers. Okay.
Isn't there a lawsuit or a legislating going to increase that number from 7 to? There was all kinds of crazy numbers being thrown out there.
Sure. At this point, I've heard several things that there will be lawsuits filed.
So I think that's why it's important that when it comes before us, that we have the final say. Some of these people that are getting into the game late, I'd like to get somebody that's been established and proven. So that's why I'm going to continue to go on with my theory of vetting the potential.
And the other point is that, remember, we're regulating it to 1 grower per population, 1 dispensary per 67,000. So at this point we're only going to have 1 dispensary in the city.
Right. So I think it's important we get it right.
I also think it's very important to understand that we as elected officials are privy to individuals trying to get us to swing towards their direction, and I just don't want to put the commission in a in a position where they're being courted by potential growers in order to vote their way. So I think that's why it should be left out of the hand of the commission, and it should just be left to a lottery, because if the work has already been done by the state of Florida to vet these individuals, they're qualified, and they're the ones that are entitled to do this, then I think that decision should just be left up to chance as to whoever is able to make that business or set up that business here in Boynton Beach.
Vice Mayor Katz.
Yeah, just I understand that's that's a concern with any any property developer or anybody that comes into their property. Am I good? Whether it's persuasion or lobbying, anything like that, that's something that happens with every decision we make up here. My concern, and again through discussion with individuals that reached out to me, as well as something that was said by the mayor at the previous meeting that I hadn't reflected on until over time, that he had indicated that wanting to look at their business plan or what their approach was to their dispensary was important, and I think that was a statement that you could look up. And at the time, I thought that might be a little intrusive, telling a business how to operate, things of that nature potentially. But just since these approved farms, I guess, or groweries haven't ever operated this type of business, again, my main motivation for this is more out of curiosity, because it's a new business, and because while they're approved by the state for their purpose of seed to sale, nobody's ever sold the product before. So again, it's not about choosing.
Not like that, but they sold it.
Well, not this product. But if anything, for me, it's more about the fact that it is a controversial issue. It's one I support fully, but just being able to be as informed and involved in the process, I think right now makes me feel more confident as an elected official that I can go to constituents in the community and say, look, we investigated all of these businesses, even though they're approved by the state, all 7 of them. They haven't actually operated this business before, and again, for curiosity's sake, I'd just like to have more of a hand in it once I reflected on that.
And what, Mayor, if we can, so in the interim, as we move toward P&D and so forth and get to where we'll be between the readings, I'll work with Jim and sit down with you individually. So start, formalize, for instance, a business plan. Let's make a list of what we think those criteria can be. And so I have something to have Jim, be ready to, one, to have the opportunity to research. And then I don't want it to hold us up between first and second reading too much. So I'll work with you individually. Okay.
We've been working on it for the last, since November, so it won't take a long time, yeah.
Is there any further
just real quick. I think this is another case where the state is taking the the local home rule out of the hands of the locals, and I see that being a problem. Them to come from Tallahassee dictating to us what is what we need down here, what's going to happen. I think that we're all smart enough up here to decide what's best for Boynton Beach, and I'd like to have that opportunity versus having 7 individuals or how many individuals put in front of us by the state and say, okay, pick one. I think that we have to have the vetting process, so I'd be in favor of that.
Any other further comment? Mine's more to the citizens of Boynton Beach. We have plenty of opportunity to get your voice heard. All 4 of your commissioners and myself will hear, I guess, topics on this. We have the P&D board meeting. If you want to get petitions, whether for or against an idea, I think that we're going to keep this as open as possible, and we're not going to. And as you can see, we are pretty divided on what we would want to do here. So, just reaching out to the citizens to help us decide what you would like is best for the city of Boynton Beach. Sounds good.
Sounds good.
All right. Thank you. Moving on to new business, Shauna.
Okay, this is item 12A, an ordinance of the City of Boynton Beach, Florida, amending Chapter 15 of the city's Code of Ordinances, deleting Article 8 in its entirety and replacing it with a new Article 8 to be entitled Chronic Nuisance Property Code, providing a statement of legislative intent, providing for identifying properties that attract or allow nuisance activities, requiring corrective action by property owners, providing procedures for enforcement, providing for notice, hearing, rights, and appeals, providing for assessment and recovery costs, fines, and fees related to enforcement, providing for levy and collection of non-ad valorem assessments, providing for conflict, severability, codification, and an effective date.
All right.
I have a brief presentation for you.
All right. Mr. Woods.
Good evening, Mayor and Commission. Mark Woods, Director of Community Standards. I'm before you tonight to present what we propose to be another tool in the toolbox in our efforts to continually deal with chronic and non-compliant properties within the city. There was a team of cross-organizational departments that made up a team to look at this ordinance. And I drew the short. I didn't mean that. I didn't draw the short straw. I was elected to talk to you tonight about this. We want you to first and foremost to realize that this ordinance, or in its proposed format, is not an answer to everything. It's not a fix-it-all, but it is another way for us to be able to address some of the non-compliant issues that we've come across in the history of our city that we were unable to deal with previously. Okay, so what does it do? First of all, it's created to address excessive service use. That is calls to service from our dedicated police, fire, and the like. It deals with properties that are habitual non-compliant, that have habitual non-compliant issues. It combines law enforcement and code compliance efforts, and it holds the property owners responsible for the actions that happen on their properties. It is not intended to deal with individual property owners for non-compliant issues in the same manner that a violation for overgrown grass or something to that nature. We do have the code compliance process that currently deals with that, and we'll still use that for those type of properties. This is created for something that is intended to deal with something on a much higher level. It deals with specifically nuisances that are defined as various forms of criminal activity. You should have in your packet a copy of the ordinance that outlines those types of activities, which I won't go into all of them now, but the violations are enumerated within the ordinance, and they're based on a number of times they happen within a time frame, such as violations determined by calls of service 3 in 30 days or 7 in 6 months. It requires that the owner of the property provide an action plan to the city, to and with the city that's developed for that property owner to bring that property into compliance in whatever manner that the city deems as necessary. Once that action plan is developed, the compliance efforts are monitored by the city, whether it be through the Code Enforcement Division or Community Standard Division or police. Any non-compliant issues after that fact are presented to a special magistrate, or if the respondent doesn't agree to the action plan, they have an opportunity to go to the magistrate as well to appeal that decision. But after that magistrate's hearing, any further non-compliant issues are remedied by the city. We use our resources to do it, and the cost for those are charged to that property owner via non-ad valorem tax rolls.
And is that okay under state statute that we can do that sort of non-ad valorem?
It is. It is. What you have there is an actual diagram of how that process works. For the audience, I'm sorry if you can't read that. There are a few at the back that you'll be able to read, but for the sake of those at the dais, you do have a copy of that diagram that basically outlines how that process would work. It's a lot of ifs and thens, if this, then that. But basically what it says, if you look from the left-hand leg of that code process, that process there, it basically says that the city determines that there is a chronic nuisance violation. The owner comes into an agreement with the city as to what the compliance efforts would be. And if they do it, that's fine. Everything goes away. If they don't, then they stand the possibility of the city doing it or having to go to a hearing to compel them to do it. But in any event, at the end of the right-hand side of that leg, you'll see that where everything funnels down to the end result being the city doing the work and that owner being taxed with the cost for those efforts. And that would be it. And we'll entertain questions.
Yeah, I have questions. Go back to that diagram.
Vice Mayor McCray?
Not Vice Mayor, Commissioner. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, in regards to that, I'm just saying, since it's an update, I'd have felt more comfortable if you all would have, when you gave us this, you'd have colored something saying this is the part that's being updated instead of having it.
It's all brand new.
Yes.
This whole process is a completely brand new process and separate and outside of what we do on a typical code compliance case. So it's totally different.
This is addition to code compliance.
Yes.
It is an addition to code compliance. It's a new tool to put in our toolbox.
Okay.
Why do y'all call it updated? I'm just saying, excuse me.
Yes, sir.
Let me finish. We had a nuisance abatement. We had one of these on the books before when I set up here prior. Okay, so I know what I'm talking about, and I'm just saying, I'm trying to figure out what changed from one state to the next. This is not something new to me. This is something new that you all are using now. That you all are bringing us. Go check the records. That's something we had in the books prior.
It is.
I know. And I'm trying to find out what changed from then to now. That's the question I'm asking you all. So please don't tell me that this is something new. It's not nothing new. It's something that you all are really trying to reinforce now. Because I had individuals who had properties, who had businesses, and they had to come up against this process. So I know what I'm talking about.
Andrew, with you, I think I know you lived and breathed.
So I guess it's Article 8
It's a replacement of
that we had existing.
Yes.
Right.
And so do you have the language in our backup documentations? Because you're saying that it is all new.
Process.
The process. So you're saying that only the section 15-001 or?
Correct. What we did was we struck every aspect of the old ordinance and replaced it with the new language. So you have entirely new language here.
So I guess what Commissioner McCray is saying, can we get a copy of the original language?
Sure, absolutely. We can provide you that.
I guess in the backup documents for for the second reading.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, I guess. And just so you know, I mean, the biggest change is allowing, we've expanded the types of chronic nuisances, obviously, and then allowing that to be going through a different process. Instead of going through a magistrate process that would typically go through the Code Enforcement Division, we're going to an agreement. It's called an abatement agreement, and as a part of that abatement agreement, we actually go into contract with the property owner if they are compliant. And then at that point, we would also have the action plan that they would follow. Obviously, if they don't comply, then they would go straight to the magistrate, and then at that point we would recover the service costs that would come through the ad valorem taxes.
Okay, so I got a question regarding 13 of the definition. It's theft. So let's say someone has a business, 1502 identity nuisance activity. item 13, Florida Statute 812.014 theft. I'm just going to get a little bit more clarification for myself. If someone gets robbed twice twice or once in a consistent basis, is that considered a chronic nuisance?
Under the scenario that you gave, it would not be, because this is not intended. If you read the ordinance in its entirety, the victim, if the victim is the one that's calling, then this doesn't apply. It's not that's not considered. So in the case you're talking about, someone got robbed, then that wouldn't apply. If there was a robbery at a place that you owned twice in 30 days or 3 times in 30 days, then yes, it would.
So you're the victim because you own the property?
No. If you're the victim of the crime.
So okay. So for example, let's say the two examples is that there's a property owner who has a business and is the victim versus there's a property owner who rents the space to a business. Is that the difference that you're trying to say?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So if the property owner is and has the business and is the victim of theft, he is not considered part of this chronic nuisance abatement. It's because it's more or less going against the landlord,
the property owner, correct?
Not necessarily the business owner.
That is correct.
So it's okay. I understand. That makes a lot more sense. That if the landlord is not getting a safe space for its tenants, this is supposed to help the tenants.
Correct.
I just got a quick question. Going way to the far right column, there was special assessment levied against the property. Would that be in the form of a lien?
It would be a form of a tax that's placed on the tax rolls.
On the tax rolls.
Yes.
So before that property could be sold, that would have to be paid.
Correct.
So they'd come in before us and ask us for a lien reduction, as they've done many times. Could they do that like they do now?
No.
No.
This is administered through the property appraiser's office. It goes on their actual tax bill and must be paid, or the property gets sold as tax sale.
So, for example, if the taxes aren't paid in Florida, this property, the tax collector will issue a tax certificate to make sure that all taxes are paid.
Correct.
If the tax certificate, if the property owner does not pay the tax certificate for 2 years, they are allowed. The tax certificate holder is allowed to sell the property at tax deed auction, where anybody can buy the property clear of any mortgage and any sort of encumbrance except for any municipal lien.
Correct.
Okay, those people couldn't come before us asking for some type of relief, correct?
No. That is correct.
But they could go through the circuit court.
They could go to the circuit court for an appeal.
Okay. And then my next question was item 26. 2 or more calls for service within a period of 30 days, calendar days, to the same property for police, fire, medic, or other emergency personnel to assist an individual who displays the symptoms of an overdose of a controlled substance. Is that discriminating against the mentally disabled with addiction because of a certain, because they can't help themselves because of their disability? Is that
again? It's not directed at the individual. It would be directed at the owner of the property. So if they have a property, if the conditions of the property is conducive to that person overdosing, then that property owner would bear the responsibility of dealing with that.
But not the business. But it wouldn't be the business owner.
Not necessarily.
Okay, so it's kind of, we are trying to work with landlords to make sure that their businesses are safe for everyone and not conducive, so that people are overdosing on these properties.
Correct.
Okay.
Let me jump in right quick on the same subject. What would happen with Walmart? I'm just saying, you all are telling us, that's the property owner, that's a business, Does this affect Walmart, what we're doing here?
Yes. Yes.
So, yeah, I guess that's what we're saying, is that the Walmart owns their land and then owns the business, then they're the victim as well, and so that doesn't apply.
Correct. Correct, because they are the property owner in that respect.
Chief, I'm glad you got up. How many robberies or incidents have we had at Walmart? Just say, this is in April, because you're talking about last 30 days, sir. Because this is. I need the old one, not this one. Go tell me, how many have we had? Roughly?
I don't have that information for you, but I'm glad to furnish it to you.
Oh, okay, because I know that's been because you constantly go to Walmart, for robberies. Okay.
Would this take care of properties such as the homing in type properties? Okay.
Okay. I saw that domestic violence is not What about, does this apply also to apartment rentals?
Properties.
Okay, so if someone subleases it, then they would be liable?
It would be the property owner that's responsible, yes.
Okay, because they wouldn't be the victim. I got it. Well, I wish you the best of luck. Yeah. This is, it's definitely new legislation, and so we hopefully that it helps reduce the crime and the need of services for these types of activities, and that we can have a safer, more family-friendly Boynton Beach. I think I'm going to open it up now to public comment, unless anyone from the commission has any further say.
I would.
Okay.
Okay. Just a few questions for you, Mr. Woods. Regarding the properties and the people that this will affect, it's always good to craft legislation, but then there are always people who fall victim, even if we're not going after them. So are you creating ways to help individuals who maybe become a victim of this? Not necessarily as in like they're a victim, but maybe they've fallen into hard times, so they let their home go into disrepair, so then they're getting these different assessments done against them. So are there ways to maybe create payment plans to help them get back on track with the city, or to help them kind of fix the situation to prevent from getting more fines?
Not as a part of this ordinance. There are other vehicles that the city has in place or that we're placing before you in the coming days to be able to deal with some of those issues. However, this would not deal with the individuals that you just spoke with. This ordinance does not.
Okay, because the reason I ask is this is addressing kind of what Commissioner Costello has been saying, where in the past we've had kind of like this never-ending rabbit hole of fines and fees levied against individuals, and then they come back with $12,000 fines, and they're asking us to forgive or to reduce. And what was the point all along of just creating this endless path of fees? So what I'm asking is, how can we make sure that we don't continue this perpetuation of these situations?
First and foremost, the city is determined as to whether or not we list them as a chronic nuisance violator in the first place. So if it's somebody that has a special situation that some of the other abilities that the city has, such as our community enhancement program and things of that nature, can help them get out of their situation, then we would do that. But that's not what this is for. This is for those people that are chronically in violation, and it's not just the constant overgrowth or the roof that's dilapidated. This is for somebody that has serious criminal activity going on their property and is causing a detriment to the surrounding area.
And those nuisances are defined, Commissioner. So like if you look at the list when you go, well, I printed mine out, so it's page 3 and 4 where it's dealing in stolen property, convenience, business security, nuisance, cruelty to animals, disorderly intoxication, open house parties, loitering. You won't see overgrown grass or, like we talked about, a fascia board that needs to be replaced. That's community standards. This is really built for a very specific list of what we will be able to consider a nuisance. So the ordinance defines it. That's not on there. Those types of problems aren't in here. And this is more for, again, the extreme, more criminal activity related, not a typical code. We have a whole different program to go that route, and we are building our volunteer programs and building grant programs and resident improvement programs as we speak, which we'll be bringing forward. So if someone has an NOV for overgrown lawn, they're not going to, they aren't even eligible. This process does not apply at all. So on those small instances, they won't fall through the cracks because they won't even be in here to be.
Thank you for the clarification.
Just before you speak, let me finish. Seem like, I'm gonna be honest with you all, seem like this nuisance abatement that, process that you all have just thrown in place is like for individual family members who has property, like, I'm gonna go ahead and just say like Bell's on 10th Avenue. It seems like you all are trying to do something to put the small Afro-American individuals out of business. I'm gonna be honest, because I'm just saying a landlord sometimes cannot control what happens on the outside of their business. I'm just saying, they work on the inside, and this is why, this is vague. I need to see the first ordinance. I'm just saying, because it seems like you all are bringing something to us that we could use as a tool to close businesses and shut them down, and I'm not in favor of this. I need to see that first ordinance, please.
This is modeled after West Palm Beach's existing ordinance, correct?
Parts of West Palm, parts of Lake Worth, yes.
How have their
used it very successfully?
How have their results?
From our research, they've been successful in the grand scheme, yes.
In extreme I think it's mostly applied to where you have extreme problems and extreme cases, which, I don't want to start naming publicly, but we do in some areas.
Well, Lord, I'm going to name publicly because I represent District 2 and I can do this. And I'm just saying, I think it's the place, and it seems like this is something that we're going to start nitpicking to close businesses. I'm going to do it publicly. I'm just saying, you don't have to name them. I can name them, okay? I'm going to do it. I
City
represent
manager?
them.
Well, and that's...
City manager?
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm going to actually let it up to the public because we said I was going to do that, so...
Thank you. Mark Carroll, George 240A Main Boulevard. First off, I want to commend Mark Woods. He did a great job with this. I read the backup in detail, and it reminded me of West Palms tremendously. I happen to know the chairman of the nuisance abatement board in West Palm, and this has worked very well there. And it does not shut down businesses. What it does is it penalizes those businesses that are a nuisance to society. And it penalizes them. And the part that I like is what you took from Lake Worth, where you're adding it to the tax bill, because that is critical. That gets you a remedy very quickly. And I want to commend them on that. There's one thing that I did want to point out, is that in our situation and what has been proposed, when there is default on that agreement that was made with the owner of the property, when there's default, then it goes to a hearing. And that hearing goes to a special magistrate. Now, I understand the expedience of that and the efficiency of all that, but in other cities, such as West Palm, there have been citizen boards of people that lived in those communities ruling on these cases. And they've been very effective with that in West Palm. That is another option that could be done here, but I understand why the choice is to go with the magistrate. It's consistent also with our community standards process, which also has a magistrate instead of a board. So I just wanted to point that out and stress that, no, this is not to shut down businesses. This is to correct problems that are chronic nuisances to society. Thank you.
Since we're talking about magistrate, Laura, who's going to
Commissioner McCrae, I'm going to continue public audience, and so can you just write your question down and we'll see. Thank you.
Hi, Susan Oyer, 140 Southeast 27th Way. I just have some questions as a property owner because I'm kind of confused right now. I'm wondering how this is going to impact us because my family owns the building Hurricane Alley is in, and I think we all agree that that's a fabulous addition to our city. It's what has kept Ocean Avenue going for decades now. So what if there was the random drunk person who caused a problem and it happened twice in a month? I mean, are you coming after me because I own the building when it's really the business owner's issue? I mean, I recognize that you're trying to go after nuisance problems, but, some things are out of my control as the owner of the property.
And we certainly understand that. The idea behind this ordinance is to give some teeth to the process of engaging in a partnership with the business. Our first effort is to reach out to the property owner and say, look, we've identified an issue, and we're going to ask that you work with us and develop a plan on how to mitigate this issue from continuing. We'll articulate why we believe that this is a chronic nuisance, and we'll share that with the property owner. That'll put the property owner in a position to be on notice of our concerns and give the property owner an opportunity to work with us and bring the situation into resolution. So we'll provide resources to help, whether it be a crime prevention assessment or anything else. We'll work with the property owner to try to bring the property into compliance in this area so that we don't have a chronic nuisance situation. So the effort is to try to work with the property owner. The concern that I think people will have with respect to our enforcement of this and the administration of the fines really relates to the breakdown of that process. So if you have a responsible property owner like yourself who's willing to work with us and mitigate the issue, that's not an issue. That's not a concern. The concern would be a property that is deliberately indifferent to the concerns of the public and the community, that are allowing tenants in their residence or tenants in their rooms that they rent or whatever to be subjected to criminal activity repeatedly. That's something that, of course, we would have a concern about. Again, we would bring that issue to the property owner and try to work with them to mitigate it. If they fail to do so, then this ordinance gives us the teeth to actually pursue that further.
Well, that I understand, except I'm looking at a situation if I'm renting out to a business and this is something the business has done, why is it impacting me as the property owner when we've rented it out? What if there's a spat of problems at, fashion shops, or a spat of problems at Hurricane Alley, or a spat of problems at my family's insurance agency? It's not caused by us as property owners, it's the random event that just happened to happen. So I think we all agree that those three businesses have been great businesses to have on Ocean Avenue, but random things could happen, and I don't see why I should have to take the hit when somebody does something stupid, walking out drunk from Hurricane Alley, or they leave the Ocean Mart next door and then come commit some crime on our properties, but then I'm held accountable for it. And I get why you guys are doing this, and I get that we're good property owners, and you're probably not going after us, but that just becomes a discrimination case, like Commissioner McCrae said, and so I know this has to be applied across the board evenly. And I think you've done a fabulous job, don't get me wrong. I just think it needs to be looked at all the possible cases so that you're not just throwing out the baby with the bathwater, because I don't want to be thrown out just because you're after some other business that actually causes problems. And we just have a random couple events that would skew our numbers for, there's been no problems for years, and now all of a sudden there's a couple problems, and then we fall under this new ordinance. That would be my question, or my issue with it. And, I'm looking at, should this be something that we could, if it's taken to the businesses, not the property owners? And I do admit there's probably property owners who don't take care of their properties, and maybe you should look at going after both as the situation applies. But this, I would think we could be able to use to be able to get bad businesses out. You own the property, somebody rents it from you, they're doing bad things, so this is a way to get them kicked out, and we can use that to help us as property owners kick out bad tenants. But if you're coming after us and not our tenants, that's my issue.
I understand the concern, and what I would say to you is that there's no effort to come after the property owner. The effort is to work with the property owner. The only time that the city would, as you would say it, come after the property owner is if the property owner didn't work with us to address the issue. And what I would say is everybody has a right to public service. Everybody is a taxpayer. What this issue addresses is the anomaly. These are situations and locations that really they take away from our ability to serve everyone, because we're chronically dealing with issues at these locations. So, in the interest of being fair, that's actually one of the justifications for the ordinance, is to make sure that we have the ability to provide public resources to everybody on an equitable playing field, as opposed to spending all of our time at a couple of different locations where people are continually being victimized. So, again, with respect to your concern, I certainly hear you and I certainly understand you, but please understand that the intention of this ordinance is to work with property owners.
Right, but I look 20 years down the line, and we will have a different commission, we'll have different police, and what's going on then, because intentions are great, but what happens 20, 30, 50 years later could be something completely different. And that's my worry, because we're long-term property owners. We're not going anywhere anytime soon.
If you look at the process of this ordinance, this is an arduous ordinance to carry out. It would be impossible, regardless of the makeup of the commission, who the police department personnel are. It would be impossible to willy-nilly go after people with this ordinance, because it is administratively very complex. But we don't look at it as an expense, we look at it more as an investment. Because while we will be spending some time working on these chronic locations, we feel that in the end, if we can bring them into compliance, then we'll save resources on the back end.
Right.
So,
okay.
But I do hear and understand the concerns.
Okay. Well, I just wanted you to look at the good property owners, not the ones causing the problems, and we don't want to get caught in a bad net for circumstances beyond our control. Thank you.
Chief, just if you could indulge me using Susan's example, if if it were brought before you that say, you know, two people or two different incidents of people being intoxicated and getting into fights on her property at Hurricane Alley were to occur, what would that scenario unfold as from law enforcement perspective and enforcing this ordinance?
It really wouldn't. It really wouldn't. Look, we have to.
That happens every weekend.
We have to use common sense in the application of this. I mean, people get into fights in places where alcohol is served. That happens. Where we would have an issue is if we continue to have large rowdy brawls. Well, then we would reach out to the property owner and we would say, look, the tenant in this facility is establishing a business practice that is conducive to these large brawls and people are getting hurt. So work with us on how we can address the situation with the business, with the proprietor. And then hopefully we'll be able to work through it that way. But again, these are for the anomalies. These are not for, hey, you had a bad weekend and there were 3 fights that broke out at this bar. This is for, like, you know, you have a problem where you're sending police there all the time. People are getting hurt, people are getting injured, and that's what this is for.
All right.
The excessive use of service.
City manager, I'm sorry to interrupt you again. I know. I'm going to Herb, and then Commissioner McRae, you're next.
Thank you.
I wonder, with all the future buildings that are being built, with high rises, town square, whether the property owners that own the property can educate the property owner as they build and also their tenants. Because I can see future problems happening with all new buildings going up. And so if the police, and they do a hell of a job, and I understand where the police chief is coming from, but I think with all the new buildings coming up, the property owners should educate their tenants, and the tenants should be advised, because I see problems coming down the hill. Thank you very much.
Commissioner McRae, thank you for being patient.
Thank you, sir. My whole take is, going back to this, because I said what I had to say about the whole thing, is that in regards to the magistrate, where the salary for the magistrate is coming from, and have we budgeted that, city manager?
That is funded, I believe, in legal. Do we fund? We don't.
The magistrate is the same magistrate that handles all the code cases currently, so it's already budgeted for. It doesn't cost any additional money. I don't know what line item it comes from.
Where's the fee that we pay, the hourly fee?
We pay that through community standards.
Out of community standards, okay. Stand corrected. Sorry about that.
So there's no additional costs.
So
that's an outside attorney that does that for us.
Stop. So I'm going back to, since 3 or 4 people then told me one answer. Okay, it comes out of the one that was handling cold cases. This is what, you know, too many, you see, y'all don't have it together before y'all get to me. I'm sorry. Come on.
Howard, Assistant City Manager. So the magistrate that we currently have that handles community standards, previously code enforcement, the city went out, selected an attorney, and those hourly rates are budgeted under community standards. This would just fall as another hearing. So we already have the magistrate in place. So the budgeted funds to pay her is out of community standards. It's already a line item in there in the budget.
All right, send me the amount for the line item, sir. Thank you.
All right.
Tim, would this be an extra workload of work with which she gets paid by the hour? Is that correct?
I would say it would just be part of what she would hear.
If you're hearing as a part of the regular hearings that we have, there'd be additional case on the hearing.
So would it be just after the, I guess, code compliance hearings? Or would it be a separate?
We'd go through the code enforcement regular agenda, and immediately ending that regular agenda, we'd hear these cases if they were in it.
But it would add on to her hourly.
Casella, before you go, so you're saying that if you have the chronic nuisance abatements, you have to wait for all of the codes to go first, or are we going to have a separate time for that, maybe in the afternoon? Because it's kind of like you're making someone wait 20 or 30 different hearings for their hearing.
It would be part of the same agenda. It would be on the same agenda. It's just the placement of it, just like we have on these agendas, where there's certain things that come first, second, and third. It would be on the agenda.
And so that the person might have to wait hours to hear that go in front of the magistrate during the day.
Yes. Conversely, though, the person with a regular code case would wait hours if they were at the end. So it's somebody's got to be at the end, somebody's got to be at the beginning.
Okay. Commissioner Casella, I'm sorry for interrupting.
My question is, what is the average when these magistrates hear these cases? What is the? Is it 3 hours, 4 hours?
Our caseloads, as far as time goes, usually is about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours.
So, what would this add to that? That's at up $150 an hour we pay.
I'm not sure the per hour amount right now.
I believe it's $150 an hour. So this would increase that budget. That's what I'm saying.
In theory, it could, yes.
In theory.
The question would be is how many of these chronic nuisance hearings would be added to.
Let's say we get 10 a month.
I don't think you would get. I don't think you would get 10 a month.
In theory.
So it may add 20 minutes. It may add a half hour, if you want to go to the extreme. How many are they hearing now?
Maybe 50 cases.
They're hearing 50 now, an hour and a half. So if you.
But these would be a little more complex
so
than
maybe another half hour.
Right? Correct.
But it may not be every month. It may just be 1 month and not a month. And
okay. My point is here that it could add to the budget.
Yes, it could.
Thank you.
And if you're considering these potential individual or businesses that we're going after, these are sober homes, these are businesses, excuse me, I misspoke. These are group homes, these are businesses, these are other affiliates. So the workload could potentially add up after a while, yes? Okay, so my suggestion would potentially be we have a board that rarely meets and rarely does anything. Could they potentially be the first group that oversees these hearings, and then if it needs to be escalated, it could go past them to the special magistrate to prevent us from having to spend more money on a special magistrate? I'm thinking of the Building Board of Adjustment and Appeals.
Just to point out that, I mean, the magistrate, although there would be additional costs, it would be recouped as a part of the non-ad valorem tax. All the costs for the excess services and the cost of administrating this would be put on the property or assessed at that time. So any cost would be all included. So as a part of that process would include the special magistrate cost.
You know, okay. So I kind of like what Mr. Karageorge said in that it is, you know, regarding the citizens, because, you know, even though this is the cost of the city, you know, it's the citizens that pay the taxes for the city. And I think that they should have an input regarding these chronic nuisances similar to what we had with our code compliance board. You know, and I guess I want to get the consensus from the commission. Is that something that we would want to look into?
Well, we can look into it, Mr. Mayor, but our history here with getting citizens on advisory boards and being committed to that board for any period of time, I think this kind of issue that we really got to take it to the next step here. I don't think we should be putting this into the hands of the citizens. I think it should go through the court process with qualified law.
The other point I'd bring out is that there is a current nuisance abatement process that would go through the magistrate now. That's the process it would head to anyway. So we're just modifying it now. The big changes in this ordinance are going to be where we go into an agreement with the property owner, which is what we're trying to entice is voluntary compliance, where we're trying to work with the property owners to get that voluntary compliance. They would never even go to the magistrate. So if we have a property owner that's willing to work with us to try and abate these type of activities, it would be, they would be compliant with, voluntarily. So only the people that would be stubbing their nose or not trying to work with us would be the ones that go to the magistrate. And currently with that process exists as part of the nuisance abatement process in the current chapter. And again, we're modifying it to streamline it and to allow for the non-ad valorem taxes. So. Vice Mayor.
Yeah, I'll speak as bluntly as possible. This is an ordinance that states to businesses that are either complicit with or ignorant of severe repeat criminal activity on their premises. And I lack any and all sympathy for any business owner that falls into that category, whether that's a sober home operator that allows people to overdose and die in their property multiple times. And I don't know what a period of time is for people to overdose on your property, but I think if it happens more than once, something should be brought to your doorstep to remedy that problem. If you are a bar or a convenience store or anything, if the types of crimes and criminal activity that are described in this ordinance are a common occurrence on your property, then this ordinance presents you with two options. You can either clean up your act, or we will clean up your act. And I think those are two pretty good options as far as a taxpayer and a resident of Boynton Beach. The opportunity is there to say, you know what, a bunch of crimes have occurred on my property. The police have come to me. They've enforced this ordinance at the onset. I'm going to clean up my act. And to those businesses who are offended by something like this, I say good riddance. I don't want businesses that are constantly sucking up our resources, that are wasting our time, our police's time, our fire and EMS time, dealing with these issues. I hate to think that a business that gets 10 or 20 police calls in a month, or a sober home that draws our EMS to them on a repeat occasion, day after day or month after month, is taking away those vital services from law-abiding citizens who might actually need them. So I understand the concern of over-enforcement, but as specified by our chief today, that's not something that we foresee because of the rigid guidelines that are set in place in the process that unfolds. Again, you know, I'll say I fully support this because of the success that has been enjoyed in other cities that have implemented similar such ordinances. And to those businesses who feel like this is targeting them, you know, I'll say it again as bluntly as I can. Stop allowing crimes to occur on your property. Stop allowing people to overdose and die on your property. I live in Renaissance Commons. There are a number of facilities, call them what you will, in my area, in my immediate vicinity, and every month it seems like somebody dies within a 500 or 1,000 yard radius of my house. And if it's the same property that happens more than once, shut them down. Kick them out. I want them out of my neighborhood, and I want them out of any neighborhood where residents feel like they are being held hostage by criminals and criminal elements and purveyors of crime through ignorance or complicity. So, you know, I can't restate it enough. Clean up your act or get out of Boynton. That's what this ordinance says. And we give you ample opportunity to clean up your act. So I would, you know, implore you to do just that. No one wants to shut your business down, but if you force us to because you are fostering this activity, then I fully support that and any action necessary.
Mr. McCray, up here next.
Yeah, Chief, just get me the stats on Walmart, you know, because I'm just saying from what was just stated, I'm just saying, you know, we'll be closing Walmart. I'm sorry, you know, so let's go.
All right.
I don't want to do it.
You know, for my opinion on this is that it is not, it's not against the businesses. It has nothing to do with the businesses. It has to do with the property owner who has a tenant of that business. And so it's almost to any landlords who are having a tenant, they're saying, hey, you get the chronic nuisance abatement board, you're in violation of the lease. And that might be a default clause that, you know, all of our landlords know, that if you involve the chronic nuisance abatement board, you violate the lease, because that means you're doing something very wrong. You know, as we are having the civil option first, and you know, with the amount of language that is put into the abatement agreement, is that for an extended period of time, or is that in perpetuity, or like a 1 year?
1 year. 1 year.
1 year agreement. I think it's kind of like you're putting the landlord on notification that his tenant is not doing what he should be doing, and you know, the tenant doesn't have free rights to do with whatever he wants to do with the property. The landlord has rights. And I think this is what we're trying to do, is that these landlords are the taxpayers, and so that we are making sure that these taxpayers aren't overusing for the services that they get. As for, you know, the businesses, it's almost, you know, we have plenty of businesses. However, you know, there's you know if a bar has a ladies' night, or you know, a dollar drink night, and there's constant drunken activity and DUIs and coming from this one location because of their drink special, I think we should have the property owner be responsible for their tenant. And you know, we will try to work with the property owner to say, hey, you need to make sure that you have police at your property because of this sort of deal that your tenant has. And if he says, well, my tenant can do this and I can't do anything about it, and he says, well, you're going to have to pay for it because the tenant wants to have so much services of the city. I agree that this is new territory for the city, and there may be kinks, but I think that the overall feel is that we are not going. This is not a stick. This is more of a olive branch to the businesses and landlords to say that we are going to work with you to say, hey, here's what we think we can do to make City of Boynton Beach better, and working together is how problems get solved. Commissioner Romulus.
Thank you for that, Mayor. This chronic nuisance abatement board you speak of, you mentioned that multiple times as if it exists.
No. The reason why I mentioned that is that does the commission have interest of creating that instead of the special magistrate, similar to our old code compliance board? This is the only time I could ask you guys of your opinion of that. The reason why is because of the magistrate is an attorney licensed and certified to do these magistrate hearings. However, it does lose a little bit of, empathy sometimes for the property owners that may have to pay additional taxes because of their tenant.
Right. So my opinion on that is that I'm not in favor of creating any new boards. We already have several boards that rarely meet or aren't being utilized to their full potential. Adding another board would potentially need to be adding another person from our clerk to do minutes and more staff time. So I'm not in favor of adding another board. I'm in favor of using some of our existing boards to do what you're suggesting. So if the other commissioners feel that way, then I would be in favor of that.
I guess I was looking at the agendas for the Building Board of Adjustment and Appeals. I think the last time they had was in 2015. They haven't had any in 2016 or 17. It was regarding a property on Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard where there was an illegal lottery operation going, and I'm guessing the property, it was 132 West Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. That was the last thing in front of the Building Board of Adjustments and Appeals.
Yeah, that was in reference to an unsafe structure. It wasn't in the other. What you're referring to was Easy Mart revocation of their BTR. So
I mean, that's what I was reading from it.
Okay. The last case I believe was in reference to an unsafe structure.
Andrew, are they inactive because there's no business to conduct, or are they inactive because?
Correct. The Building Board of Adjustments and Appeals is only on as-needed basis, and it's based on someone applying for a request. So if a contractor or an owner feels like they're not in agreement with what the building official has determined or allows, then they can appeal that decision. That's the due process for someone going through those processes, through the business tax or through the building process. That's your due process.
They only had one hearing since 2015, did you say?
I don't know exactly, but
no, it might have been longer.
They rarely ever meet, and I believe maybe what we can do is just increase their purview to allow for something like this to now be added to their agenda, where if there are situations they could potentially see them, and then if we can't get a hearing or we can't necessarily say, then we can go forward to the special magistrate.
If you allow, the board makeup for the Building Board Adjustments is specifically that geared towards regulating businesses that deal with construction and development industry. That's why the special magistrate was picked for this process, because of their expertise in the enforcement of the laws and city ordinances. So that's why that process was being done. And the previous abatement was done through the special magistrate, and also was before the building or the code compliance board. So they were the ones that were doing the double duty. So it's basically the same thing. The special magistrate will be doing the double duty as that process.
And I understand that. I think this is just really to allow for community or citizen input, as in where if you're going after local businesses, then we would want to have local individuals be a part of the decision-making process. That's the only reason why I bring up the idea.
And people can do that now, Commissioner, during the special magistrate hearings. The public can speak at any time, so they do have that opportunity through our magistrate process.
Right. Plus, they do have the appeal process through the courts at that point. If they were rendered a decision by the special magistrate, they could appeal to the court system, and we would have to wait till that case is completed to render a decision.
Do we have language for the prevailing party gets attorney's fees?
I don't believe that's in the ordinance, no.
Is that something we could put in the ordinance and include in the non-ad valorem taxes?
I'd have to speak with the city attorney regarding that.
You know, and you know, I'm reading the minutes. It says November 7, 2013. There was someone from the sheriff's, Lieutenant Bonifaire, who said that there was legal lottery, 4 years ago. So I don't expect you to remember. That's why I had that. But I'm sure I saw the pictures. It was an unsafe building, and that's why it was in front of the Building Board of Adjustments Appeals regarding a demolition. I'm in favor of continuing with the special magistrate because of the process of getting it started and involved. If we do have citizens who would like to be on a chronic nuisance abatement or code compliance and take that back, I'll be willing to hear what they have to say, and I guess they can go to the commissioners. But if we don't get if we only get 2 or 3 people, it's no point in doing it. And as for the Building Board of Adjustments Appeals, they don't necessarily have the qualifications of what needed regarding the chronic nuisance abatement, because you need an officer, you need lawyers, and there's a lot of different knowledge needed to dealing with this ordinance. I'm not as gung-ho as about with the Vice Mayor Katz, but I think this is something that we need to put in place so that we can start correcting some of the issues that have been plaguing the city for decades.
I'm in favor of using the magistrate because, after all, we're already on a slippery slope, so I like legal individuals operating and giving us their legal opinion when it comes to information like this instead of citizens like John Doe. That's where I'll go.
So, seeing no more public comment, does anyone have any final comments from the board? The commission, I'm sorry.
I simply just want to say, I believe this is a great idea. I just want to make sure that we prevent ourselves from going down the slippery slope of potentially going after individuals who maybe become entangled in the language of this simply because they have individuals that are frequenting their business that may land them into this ordinance. So, I see, of course, the intention of it, but again, sometimes good intentions pave the way to hell. Isn't that what the phrase is? But either way, so I'm sorry, English is not my first language. But anyway, so
We got it.
The point that I'm making is I just want to make sure that we use this ordinance for its intended purposes, and again, not to penalize good standing businesses that are that may fall victim to this.
I'm comfortable with the chief's explanation on how this would be implemented and how it would be carried out, so I'm very comfortable with that.
Yep, Vice Mayor.
Yeah, just
comments.
I'll tone down my comments here by saying that I think that the way that it's laid out, and with the comments from Chief today, in line with what Commissioner Casella just said, is that I don't foresee, and I don't think anyone up there currently foresees this becoming some avalanche of ordinance violations that shut down swaths of businesses. I think that looking forward in this city, especially the downtown portion of this city, we're looking at hundreds of millions of dollars in investment in new businesses, new residential infrastructure, et cetera, up and down Boynton Beach, Federal, Seacrest, MLK, with the CRA in conjunction with things we're doing. I think that, again, people who would fall under this ordinance in violation of it need to recognize that for this city to move forward, the types of activities that would run afoul of this ordinance simply need to cease. And if you are a business operator that does not agree with this, then you need to clean up your act. If you are a property owner that has tenants, hopefully, like the mayor said, that if you have a tenant who violates this ordinance, hopefully in your lease there's language that specifies if they are engaging in criminal activity and things of that nature, that you can either address it or you can get them removed from that property. So I just think going forward, if we want to get our downtown area, if we want to revitalize the heart of Boynton, again, even on the west side, there are issues with businesses of this nature that violate these laws regularly and need to come into accord with our standards. This is something that will push the city in the proper path, and it just it's something that needs to happen, because we can't expect investment and development if there is rampant violence and rampant crime throughout the city. So, I fully support this, and I'll be the first to say it if it turns into some sort of uncontrollable beast and there are dozens of businesses being cited for this, I will be the first one to come up here and say that that ordinance needs to be amended. But I don't foresee that based on what I've been told, so I fully support this.
Okay. I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
May I have a roll call, please?
Mayor Grant,
Yes.
Commissioner McCray,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Katz,
Yes.
Commissioner Romulus,
Aye.
and Commissioner Casella.
Yes.
The vote is 4-1.
All right. Moving on to proposed resolution number R17-050, authorize the mayor to sign an interlocal agreement between the City of Boynton Beach and Boynton Beach Community Redevelopment Agency for the CRA partial funding of the Director of Economic Development and Strategy for full year 16-17 for an amount not to exceed $23,795.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes, discussion. It says strategy for the year 16-17. I think he's being hired in the year of 17. Did we do
No,
this
it's
in 16?
the calendar year.
Fiscal year.
For October 1st, 2016 to September 30th, 2017.
Okay, October the 1st, but I'm just saying that's the calendar year, but he wasn't hired, he's hired within the calendar year, but there's only a few months in which he's, this is going to be playing out. This is what I'm saying. I understand fiscal year 16-17, but it's only for a few more months, and I'm just saying, what is the total amount for the calendar year 17-18, although we have not budgeted? This is what I need to be knowing. This is only for a few months in this year.
Correct.
Correct. Tim Howard, Assistant City Manager. Yes, the current ILA in front of you is only for the remainder of this year.
How many months, Tim?
We did it for a 6-month. We did it from April 1st to September 30th because we've been working on the ILA for the last 3 or 4 weeks.
Okay, April to September. What would that total salary be? 23,795 times 4?
No, times 2 for next year. So that the 23,000 is the maximum for this current year, which is 6 months. So if you just wanted to double it for next year, it'd be 46,000.
$47,589.25. It's page 523.
What is his total salary? I forget that page. I'm talking to you.
His total, his current salary is 100.
Total program expenses is $47,589.25 regarding the CRA. His whole budget is, his whole salary? Is that what you're asking, Commissioner McCray?
Yeah, but he's in finance, sir. I'm just saying, you sitting like I am. What is that, sir? That's why I'm talking to somebody who works with the figures for the city. My question is directed to you.
His current salary is $130,000. What the ILA covers is his salary, a portion of his salary, and his health insurance cost and his pension cost. So the total of that is about, let me look. I believe it's in the backup.
No, you just multiply it by 4. So if his total proposed program expenses of $47,589.25 from the CRA, and that's 25%, the total would be $190,357, including all benefits.
Is that right? $190,000? We're going to be paying one gentleman?
I'm at $189,000, which includes the pension cost and the insurance costs. Pension costs, remember, are at about 38% of the salary per person.
Mm-hmm. All right.
We're anticipating pension costs to be close to 48%.
Right.
48% of salary moving into next year.
The two
48.
48% of salary.
The two that I've got back.
That's what I'm telling y'all.
Right. One is 47 and one is 48%. And I'm waiting for the third one now.
My whole take is that, I can go along with this 6 months because I need measurables to see if this individual is measuring up to what he said he's going to do. But I'm just saying for us to bring somebody on board and come up with almost $190,000 for one individual, I'm baffled. I'm just saying, I think it needs to be looked at again. I'm sorry. I go along with the 6 months.
And as normal, all the ILAs between the CRA and the city comes back every year. They're only for a 1-year agreement. So you'll see another one in October to renew this for a year.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
I have to say something. Commissioner McCray, I disagree. I believe that this is good spending of taxpayer money to pay this individual who's very well versed and very well experienced in what he does. And we've been asking for a very, very long time for somebody to fill this role and to allow for our community to have, a place at the table, you might say, to be able to get local hire consideration and consideration for our local businesses to make sure that they're informed when it comes to different contracts and bids and things being put out. This is what this individual has been hired for, and I truly believe that that role is going to be fulfilled. I look forward to what he'll be able to do. I look forward to the output that we'll be seeing in the community and building wealth in the community, as that his really mission in his job title. So I don't oppose this amount of money that's being allocated to pay for what I believe we've been asking for. I mean, if we're saying that we're paying too much now for something that we've been asking for so long, then we're really doing ourselves an injustice. So I firmly believe that this individual is qualified to do this job, and that he's been doing a very good job of being diligent to reach out to the community, to speak to different people who are community stakeholders and who are really involved in the process of involving the community. So I truly support this individual and the salary that's been allocated to him.
Commissioner Ramos, let me make my last statement. I don't mind, you saying that you support this. I'm just saying I need measurables to find out if he's living up to his agreement for $189,000. He's at the table, but I'm sorry, but he don't have to sit in a gold chair. That's what you're saying. I'm going to say he doesn't have to sit in a gold chair. This is a lot of money when we're looking at the budget for this city. When we go to the budget, I would like for you to look at it then and tell me, we need measurables. I'm just saying, sure, it might be a good idea, but when I'm looking at when we're trying to do a budget where we need money to do different things here in this city, one individual to get $189,000, can't swallow it. I'm sorry.
Tim, a quick question. When we hire these directors and these department heads, how is the salary, how do we figure out the salary? How do we come up with, in this case, $189,000? Is it
classification plan? They fall into a specific grade. Within David is considered an executive level, which is we have 5 or 6 that are executive level directors.
All right, so
and they're in a pay grade. I can't. 40.
So there's a protocol for it. Right?
Yeah, there's a grade.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if somebody's not being up to snuff or the measurables for this,
I fire them.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. May I have a motion to approve or further comment?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Seeing none, motion passes unanimously. Legal. Proposed resolution number R17-051. Shauna?
Resolution of the City of Boynton Beach, Florida, amending Resolution R16-150 to extend the temporary moratorium commenced under a notice of intent NOI 2016-01 related to the siting, placement, and design of wireless telecommunication facilities, also known as WCF, within the rights of way through September 6, 2017, and providing an effective date.
We have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Do I have a second? Seconded by Vice Mayor Katz. Any discussion? I just said a quick question. Did the state legislation pass any sort of bills that are up for the governor's signature?
Not yet. It's en route, but it has not been signed, I don't believe.
So that there has been a Senate bill and House bill that is regarding
yes.
preempting what we can do?
Potentially, yes.
Okay. And so do we want to try to create something before that comes into effect?
Mike Rump, Planning Zoning Director. No, what we're recommending is that we extend the moratorium that's in place now that would expire early June to give us more time to wait that out to see what the outcome is. It may be futile to do that and then have to turn around and change what we put in place.
I see. So there's nothing grandfathered in for the current legislation?
I don't think in the state's eyes, no.
Okay. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Resolution passes unanimously. Shauna?
All right, this is item 13B on the agenda, an ordinance of the City of Boynton Beach, Florida, designating the property known as Boynton School, the Children's Museum, located at 129 East Ocean Avenue, which is more fully described herein, as a local historic site, providing a non-severability clause and an effective date.
May I have a motion to approve? Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Happy to see this happen.
Me too. Any further discussion? Any public comment? Seeing none, may I have a roll call, please?
Commissioner McCrae?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Katz?
Yes.
Commissioner Romulus?
Aye.
Commissioner Casello?
Yes.
And Mayor Grant.
Yes.
The vote is 5-0.
Last is direct staff to suspend enforcement of the city's Code of Ordinances, Chapter 17, Article 2, solicitors and canvassers.
I have questions in regards to this. I'm just saying, does this, how would a Comcast representative apply coming into a community soliciting?
Sir, it wouldn't change anything as far as the Comcast representatives. They solicit now, and they would be able to solicit even if you were to approve this agenda item. The way that things for entities such as Comcast work is if they already are required to have a BTR, they can solicit door-to-door anyway. So this particular ordinance doesn't apply to Comcast right now anyway. The ordinance has not been amended or looked at or updated since 1958, and there has been a significant amount of case law that has occurred between now and 1958, and so we are requesting that you suspend the enforcement to allow us some time to update the city's Code of Ordinances, and we anticipate that we will have a new ordinance for you, if not at the next commission meeting, at the meeting immediately thereafter.
Let me ask you a question. So what you're telling me, anybody that want to come in and solicit in any part of Boynton, they can go door to door and knock on doors?
Right now, I checked with the city clerk's office. They said that the people who have come in for requesting a permit to solicit are few and far between. They have like maybe 2, 3, 4 a year, not very many. The reason that we're asking to suspend the enforcement is because there are certain provisions in the ordinance right now, such as you need a doctor's note indicating that you don't have a communicable disease, and things like that do not conform with the current case law, and so we don't want to have the city have this type of ordinance on the books that does not conform with case law, because that could expose the city to certain types of liability. So, like I said, it's not going to be in any long extended period of time, either the next commission meeting or the meeting immediately thereafter. I'll have a new ordinance for you, and everything will be back in force.
Final question. So they have to get a permit from the city clerk in order to go door to door to solicit here in the city of Boynton?
Not everyone, just certain groups of people. Like I said, right now, Comcast, AT&T, they can go door to door right now anyway, without going to the clerk's office.
What about political candidates?
That's completely different from this section.
Okay.
This is only having to do with canvassers, like selling like magazines or things like that. It's a very narrow part of the city's code, which is why it's very few.
So if a political candidate had people canvassing neighborhoods for him, that you're okay?
It's completely separate. Yes,
okay.
It's not this part. And that's exactly why, and I think that's the reason why it's gone a little bit unnoticed since 1958, is because it's completely separate from the political side, and it's separate from Comcast and everyone else, and it's gone a little bit unnoticed, but we just can't let it continue to be that way.
You're good, Casello.
Let me just say regarding this ordinance, from what I understand, this ordinance had some blatantly racist language in it, and times have changed, and I'm really glad that we as a city have adopted newer views of society in order to prevent some of these things from being enforced. So what I'm also asking staff to do is making sure that we are also looking at the rest of our ordinances that may also be out of date, that may also have some of these languages that are, very offensive to individuals, and be taking care of that and bring them up to date, please. Thank you.
All right. Motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, under future agenda items, I had asked Mr. Howard to put on the future agenda as we all know that the legislative passed the increase in the homestead, $25,000 that's going to be on the upcoming ballot. And if so approved, what effect that will have on our resources here in Boynton Beach. So I've asked him to compile some numbers and see what kind of adverse effect it might have here in Boynton Beach if it was to pass.
And that would be for the 2019-20
Correct.
year? Okay. Because it would be on the 2018 ballot.
Correct.
The other thing is that, Lori, could you reach out to our lobbyists to see, to get, a report once in, in July or August to see if we got any funding from the state this year?
And since we're on this whole giving you assignments thing, can we also add our local legislators to kind of reach out to their local offices and have them come give us reports on their end and different things like we had for Al Jaquette and different other people?
We will do that for Representative Jaquette and
Bernard.
No, we already have Berman.
We already have Berman.
We already have Berman and Senator Clemens scheduled. They reach out to us each year. Usually that's what happens, and we put them on the agenda. So they're both, I think, scheduled for the June 6th. So I'll reach out to Representative Jaquette's office and see if he wants to get on the 6th. I can still get him on the 6th as well, or does he want to come to the following?
We also have Hager. We have some other individuals.
They typically reach out to us when they're ready, but we could give them a call.
Okay.
I have a school board member, Erica Whitfield, on for I believe it's the June 20th meeting.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn? You're looking for that?
Yeah, no, I just don't want too many announcements.
They'll be saying a lot of the same thing.
Right.
But they want their opportunity to come to speak to the commission, so we should invite them.
But we can invite them, but give them another date. I'm just saying,
May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.